work session to give you a look at things. And there's two things. There's like 7 documents or so, but it's really 2 things. There's a set of kind of summative data from the AK STAR. That's our state's summative assessment that they give at the end of the school year for grades 3 through 9. And I've given you the district summary and then the school level summary for each of the individual sites. The Anderson and Cantwell summaries, if you open those up, you're not going to see very much because of the small size, we get a lot of suppressed data. The district one is kind of hard to really glean something from because it's that combination of largely Tri-Valley for brick and mortar, then also brings in our peak students that participate in the assessment. So it's hard to kind of say, well, what does this tell us about us so much? So I think the one that's probably the most informative about like what's our like brick and mortar experience like would probably be the Tri-Valley Scientific. And then the Denali Peak AK STAR kind of stands on its own as you see how those students are doing. But I point out with the Denali Peak AK STAR, we have a participation rate somewhere between 15 and 20%, where the Tri-Valley participation rate, I believe, was 100%. So it's a real different view in terms of, you know, getting a whole picture of the student population count after Tri-Valley. The other piece of data that you have, and this should be like the second one that comes up looking at it, is the SCCS, and that's the School Climate and Connectedness Survey. That's a survey that we take every year. We've taken it really since 2015. And it's a survey that's administered in the spring and asks students different questions about kind of like the climate culture of the school. And I have attached a kind of sheet that has all the tallies for all the years that we've done it. On the top of those pages, there's a link that actually brings you to the actual website that hosts the data. And so you can go there and look at it a lot of different ways. So you can say, hey, within this category, what are those questions? There are about 5 questions under each of those categories. You can dig in and say, what are those questions? With the School Climate Connectedness Survey, the responses and the data given is always in terms of a positive response. So if you look at something like delinquent behavior and it has a high score, that means that a high number of people did not report delinquent behavior. A high number like drugs and alcohol use, that's good. That means a high number of people did not say, I saw or was using drugs and alcohol. Remember, high numbers are always good, even if the category is kind of like, that sounds bad. And the intention was to just give you some time kind of individually and give you time to kind of look through that and really try to just see the things that you notice, meaning factual things like, oh, here's this data thing that catches my attention and it is this score. And then also at the same time, you ask yourself, what questions come to mind when you look through these data analyses? Personally, when I look through data, I always think I'm going like, oh, I'll find the answer to this question. And what I end up doing is asking a lot more questions about things, and I get a different way of looking at or thinking about things. This is really looking at doing an activity where you kind of try to record your notices and wonders. There's an electronic thought catcher that can also hand out a physical one if you'd like. That can help just kind of say, hey, jot down rough notes, what you notice and wonder. Kind of help keep them in your memory. And kind of as we go through and progress, we can also take a look and actually start talking and sharing those things with each other. First thing is just doing that thinking for yourself. Okay.
And did you want to focus on?
I was thinking just let yourselves kind of explore whether you want to really look at like, hey, you're interested in that summative assessment data, which was taken. We're both taken about the same time, like in March of last spring. So it's somewhat timely from that snapshot of time. So really March 2024. Like the student kind of say, hey, I thought this
ZK links.
both sets of data.
Yeah, as it pleases you, and maybe you just look deeply at one, maybe you cruise through a couple of them. Maybe you quick, like rock, paper, scissors with the person next to you, say, I'll look at peaks, or AK star, you look at the school private commitment survey. Or I'll look at this right now, and I'll tell you the other one, if I get home tonight.
That's. All of us have to take one. So you know what it looks like.
2 more minutes to kind of finish that wonder or notice that you're having. Then we could pause this if it's time to have a conversation with Tim.
Sure.
Topic, still on high school. What's alcohol? High score. Questions, inferred responses. Carry yourselves away from that, finish writing that last notice or wonder. Pull yourself off of the screen to the page. And Tammy is here if you wanted to come up, kind of make it a bit more closer, a bit more intimate with the board. Board, you do have some possible questions that are on board docs for you in the executive content section. At this point, Tammy is the only person that has expressed interest. So I don't know if you want to go through those formal questions. They are similar, but somewhat different than the ones that you used last year when you interviewed candidates. But again, there's no one else to try to get like a standardized comparison to. So I'll leave it to you. I'll go sit back down and offer my assistance if you need it.
Hi, Tammy.
Hi.
Thanks for being interested. I myself wasn't here for your interview in the last round, and I was.
No.
So I think if you're good with it, we'll just hit you up with a couple questions.
Sure,
just,
absolutely.
Just
No problem.
share thoughts and appreciate the letter that you wrote explaining your interest. Does anyone on the board see a question that they like to pose for? I'll ask the first one. Okay. I think it's, I like. What motivates you? On the board?
I have lots of ideas to try to help, you know, in the area of school. I have helped in other directions with other organizations, and I think I could add to what's happening here. I really enjoy the school process. I've been kind of out of it because I no longer have kids in school. And I've been working at Three Bears and not substituting at the school this round. So I feel like I'm a little outside of it, but I really enjoy working in the school, and I really like that atmosphere of exchange of ideas and learning. So.
Sure. Yeah, they're only five. They're only five.
Only 5 questions.
So as you know, our mission statement is working together to nurture, empower, and inspire today's students to positively shape tomorrow's world. What does this mean to you, and how do you see it guiding your work as a school board member?
I think it indicates that we're all lifelong learners and that we're encouraging that habit for students and staff alike. And, to continue to honor that and move forward with that, I think is the goal. So, if we as the board, you as the board, have the opportunity to do that and encourage that process. And, that's a handshake relationship that works best in close relationship. So
And how would you approach balancing the interests of an individual or a few students with the interests of all the students in the district?
that's always an interesting dilemma because everybody tries to say, well, majority rules and then what's best for the most, but for me, and I think that trying to be individualized and assess the needs is a more accurate kind of way of going about it instead of just saying, well, here's the big pot, let's go that direction. Maybe there's a way to facilitate both and find a balance there. Not every student learns the same, not every student has the same needs. Maybe we need to, be creative and come up with something that fills that gap and that need.
How do you understand the role of the school board in governing the school district versus managing the district? And your part as one member of the board of 7 in that governance function? So
The board is an advisory kind of situation. They're not the boots on the ground doing the work. That's his job, teachers' jobs. We operate at policy level and guidance level and those sorts of things.
Yeah, absolutely. What else would you like the board and public to know about you regarding your interest in serving on the DBSD school
I have no idea. Be honest, I don't know. What do you want to know?
What do you think one of your greatest strengths are from your background that you would maybe possibly bring into this?
I'm very good at organizing and thinking through different angles in depth. So I think brainstorming is one of my favorite things to do, whether it's just at random or on paper or those sorts of things, and getting things and people organized, kind of to do things. If we're going to have a plan, then I'm a good planner. That's one of the things that I like to do and have done well in other areas.
I had a question, just wondering, how long do you see yourself being interested in continuing to serve on the school board? This is a 2-month appointment that we're looking at right now.
I understand.
So just wondering, is this something that you're interested in doing for a long time, trying to see about a couple of years?
I would be committed to doing it as long as y'all and people want to elect me and have me serve. That's what it is, service. So
It's just an interesting time to get.
yeah. Well, and I was thinking that on the way over is the timing issue, and my husband was like, well, are you really wanting to do this? And I said, I really wanted to do this before, but maybe the timing just wasn't right. And maybe now is the time. I don't know. Is it something that I'm gonna go home and cry if it doesn't happen? No, but I feel like opportunity knocks. And if we're there and we are ready to step through the door, then great, and if this is something that I can help do and serve, then here I am.
So the process at this point, we're still in the work sessions, it's just the interview and start our meeting after gone through at 7 o'clock after we've gone through the data, and then that's when we would vote to appoint. Reorganize after that. It's added.
Last time I hung around, it was rather awkward, so y'all can let me know whenever. I'm gonna go home and feed my husband because he was grumpy.
The assumption, I think, is that the board will make a appointment tonight.
Okay.
And get the first. Or.
If you want me to hang around, I can.
I suggest hanging around.
Okay.
Lots, documents.
It would be, yeah, it'd be easier as far as the board's functionality if you stuck around.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll be available then.
Okay, and right now, we're discussing a couple of sets of, I don't know if you had a chance to look at the agenda of the board docs in advance. We're discussing a couple of the sets of data. It's been made available to us, the school climate connectable survey. And then also the K-STAR results from last.
Is that the new state testing results? Oh,
So
Very
we're
interesting.
just, all sort of spending some time with the data and getting our notices and wonders down on paper. Move into conversations.
I was just about to say that you're using the think, compare, share protocol. Next step is that's to thinking, it's to with your table partner. Just talk to and show what are the things that you notice, what are the things that do that for maybe 10 minutes, and then we'll kind of dump all of this thinking. So if you have a device with you, you could try to look at that as well. So I'll try to dig up the extra iPad.
yeah, I don't, my phone doesn't line very well, it's.
I'll try to get you.
You'll have to tell your husband that I'll have to get him something too.
Well, he was kind of.
So that he's not sitting there
staying,
waiting.
so I would, maybe he'll have to go get something without me.
Or you can play for something. Yes, hey, this clam chowder. What?
Oh.
Do it.
Oh, plenty.
So the very last thing, right, is we were like supposed to terrorize away. I noticed something that I wanted to actually. So did you?
Yeah.
Sorry.
So last year we had
Connectedness survey.
delayed the
Bottom
in April.
table there.
So.
Or is there not a community?
2022 data report in April of 23 data report in April 24. We just finished.
Right.
Assessment.
The columns are. One was student relationship, about was peer. Another based on. Okay, so you're looking for.
Like, I guess this is from staff, so maybe it's just not in the staff one, but community support.
Yeah.
Like I was looking at the community support between all of them. And yeah, this is staff, so I guess maybe it's just not in the staff one.
Yeah.
Yeah, cause, I mean, I kind of skipped over the part where it said data suppressed and then most recent we had was 2020. I skipped over some of those. So I would have noticed that if I looked at all of the staff, that it's not in there in that same verbiage. I got that right. But anyway, yeah, I was looking at the Anderson and Tri Valley. And Anderson, most of them were towards the highs. Anderson took steps, community support, social and emotional. Two that were kind of slightly outliers.
I thought that was either, because I don't know if they're really comparable or if they're peer climate student. But I do find it fascinating how much so from the staff are better off. If it's not a state.
So,
Right.
it's interesting, because the period time in that one is low, all of the years, but it's the highest of all of the years. You know, it's the highest, but it's still pretty low. It's still pretty low. But for this, for the staff, that one is high.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Staff, point of view is period. Yeah, that is interesting.
For sure, you're right, we do have different, changes. Be thankful for that. But I don't really.
Another one that I wondered about, like, what is the high expectation?
Yeah.
Like, the students feel like they have,
That was my other question, would say.
like, people are expecting a lot of them. People are expecting high expectations, or what is that?
Yeah, I think it's changed. I know that last year. It's not like. You know, it's really a troll situation where it's not. But the next one is what.
So I was kind of visioning, like,
But it was just.
being pushed to work hard. Working hard. I
But
wasn't
again,
exactly sure what that is. I mean, but it's good to see, at least in this first one, you know, Anderson, it's pretty high compared to recent years. So, but I think I'd be interested in, like, raising questions on these, but that survey is still, like, for me, looking at the results. So that it's extremely huge.
I wonder, it's really. Yeah.
Yeah.
Were there? We're just, we're basing so much. Support this answer.
Yeah. I think those are some of my notices, and questions from the climate.
Oh, it's nice.
Did have a question on the, like, star scores. So, because, like, you got Tri-Valley, the mean score is 16.5, Burke 16.02, and Alaska 15.88. What's the max? You know,
Well, I don't think they,
like, how's that?
Yeah.
I don't understand how those scores can be. Is that like, I mean, with it being a median, that's gotta be like one student score. That median score is somebody's at 16.03, right?
right.
So that's a
Sacramento analysis. I think what they had two years ago, which is why we need three results.
changes. And then, I think that was my question right here in the difference between TVS and state cohorts. It shows, in 21, 22, Tri-Valley's at 37 each of those years. And then the next year, 57, 52. And DBSD district, 37, 37, 45, 44, like, there's significant jumps, I feel like. But then across the state, there's not.
Yeah, and that's because of that.
Kind of around.
But that
We
adjustment
might actually been.
within our school, or within the state, because why didn't
We were kind of changed.
like, if the adjustment was the cause, shouldn't it have kind of reflected a little bit?
When you're new and enroll, it kind of
Seems
depends on
interesting.
it's like where.
Yeah.
Because that's what I assumed, because I mean, you had the peaks, and then the first year of AK Star, and I'm like, okay, maybe that was while it was shifting, but then why didn't the state shift? That's what kind of caught me off guard there.
But it has.
But it's not so much that, it's like, it's the, like, GPS.
Oh, that is that shift up.
Yeah.
Oh, I think, okay, so the first year of that, all of these like scores, they did shifted.
I guess these were.
You're-
Yes. There's a lot.
So they needed to spread out.
Yeah. Especially since you say, of course, it's great.
And we were discussing, so it looks like there's a pretty clear shift from, 21-2 in Dry Valley and CBSD. But it's a little bit less clear of a shift across the state, like 30s before, still. a little
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Like, does that mean that they shifted the scoring?
So here, weird things happen. So I was thinking,
We changed.
piece, it's a different assessment,
Right.
than the star. And then the star changed their.
Or you can drill down at 28. So
2022 and 2023 assessment. So they did, like they said, for the first thing, they said, this is what the scores of anything would indicate someone's proficient. And then that was the first year of AK Star. And then they said, what does that really look like? And did comparisons to nationally normed tests. And what they saw was that the kind of like expected national comparison varied widely between grade levels. One grade level, like maybe, hey, you had a 50% national average, proficient, and the next grade level, you had 80
category.
in the national.
Right.
And then down. And so they did another round adjust saying what it should be. So even like there's. Second, third year. Not quite.
It's just interesting that it seems so stark, like in R2, but well, 23 is kind of, a low year, obviously, but the rest of it also very. That caught my attention.
This is just additional.
I don't know.
Anyway, come on.
I was in a meeting today with superintendents, and it's a struggle. The AK Star is a criterion measuring students. So it's scoring and measuring students against like a set criteria. And it's somewhat frustrating because some of those cut scores are still like, well, you need to. perform
Anyway,
like
carrying on.
50% national average for the or 60th
Figures
percentile,
on
fifth graders nationwide. To be proficient in class. And we're like, man, superintendents, we're getting our beat up because we're not proficient. So to be proficient, you have to be better than the national. So the measurements.
You're correct.
So another question I had is there like a set max score that you had on this? Like this, the median score is somebody's score, somebody got a 16. But like, what does that mean? Does that mean that they made it halfway through the test?
No, it's a very different style test than like. It's computer based. This is actually, they're doing it, it's a dual assessment. Part of it. Some of the questions are feeding into assessment. And we get the results right away. Some of the answers feed into AK Star, and they're all designed to try to find the students. So even a student that's scoring really high, we can find only getting some. And then the responses and response patterns is what feeds into their.
Works my brain right there.
Yeah, it's the psychometricians, as they're called, that work on the assessment. Because it's actually the other data that's much more actionable. The next day, it's a data. Okay. This is fine. Teachers.
That was.
What is the acronym RIT?
However, carrying else.
Which thing?
It's students with valid RIT scores.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah.
And so we get to then go look at the individual.
Where's it at?
Is
that at? Right?
RIT, mean RIT scores. And it doesn't have an explanation that I can find. It's on all of the Alaska Star.
Students with valid RIT scores. So
It
there's-
just
so
did
this
better
is the
than the
grade.
mean RIT.
It's like,
Did about as well, but I don't know what the RIT is.
I don't know, we should ask Dan. Dan, you know what RIT is?
RIT, it's Roush.
I just lost.
It's the name that the assessment company uses for their like measurement step. Their point is called a RIT.
So that's
So-
that's what it's referring to in all of these
Okay.
along here.
Yeah.
So it's like the baseline for the,
No, it's the assessment company designed it so that when they say that someone has a RIT score of 500, so I don't know that that's the wrong numerical values, but it says a RIT score of 500, that 500 tells the same ability level and skill level, regardless of grade level.
okay.
Where a lot
so
of
it's-
times other
it's a-
things like scale back or normalize back to a central
Mhm.
point, the RIT score is actually a continual scale throughout the entire assessment. And it's interesting that it's on this data report because it's not really part of the AK star that's used.
Yeah, but it doesn't have any other reference except that the,
Roush instructional, that was Roush instructional unit. And it's good, it's used, the other half part of the test can kind of continues for kids, so you can actually look at their growth throughout the year, fall, winter, spring. And because that RIT score is the same scale, you keep looking at the RIT scores the next year, the next year, next year, look for what's that pattern of acquisition. Because otherwise you're always doing these mental gymnastics about coming back to, well, okay,
what's really their skill level and
yeah,
where
how-
are they at?
the idea that, great, you told me that I need to improve. Okay, I feel I did, but then you changed the measurement too.
Right.
So now you still tell me I need to
Change
improve. And
change
I'm
the
like,
scale by which we're measuring.
where if I look at the RIT score, I can go, you've grown a lot. I'm still old. That's what. 10 minutes left. And sorry to not have a bit more time, but just start sharing out those wonders, those notices a bit more whole group. Maybe there's an answer. I helped a couple of you with answers. I'm surprised I was able to do that. Or might be able to just sit with the wonders or the appreciations of like, yeah, that's an interesting data to me, draws my attention, curious about it, I wonder about it. I noticed it, makes me think. So just kind of a larger conversation. Yeah, you know, it's the good think, compare, share. Or not, because.
On the school climate connected survey, something that I noticed, which I thought was unfortunate, if I'm reading it right, Dan, A student's rate showing respect to others super low, that's in peer climate, and I looked at some of the questions that, Tri-Valley went from 55 down to 37. And, Anderson was sitting at a 45, Campbell was sitting at a 36. I just kind of thought, what, I wondered why, what, maybe then what, how can we help that situation? Maybe being respectful to others is pretty much core value in human relationships overall, that just kind of really stood out. Fortunate. And, Tri-Valley going from 55 to 37 here. It was concerning to me.
From the staff results, there was one about a question about student to student relationships that tied in, I thought, with peer climate, also a similar drop, 74%, 30.
Well,
Tri-Valley.
because I also noticed from the staff, how the staff was rating how we treat others.
Among staff.
Staff to staff. No, staff to student. Or maybe how staff was internal, like seeing how the kids are treated. That's what student to student.
Student to student.
But how the staff's. Okay.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. It's for 2024 staff rated to student relationships at from a 74 the year previously to 38.
I just thought it was concerning.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree, we picked up on that.
Don't talk to them when it's the pair time.
The pair time. On the positive side, from the School Climate and Connectedness Survey, one of the criteria that defines success in schools, both around student engagement and student achievement, is having caring adults in the building, right? We're familiar with that concept. So I was pleased to see that from the student survey, 6-12 caring adults was rated at 75%, which was right up there among, really the highest among those 9 years that were counted there, at least at Tri-Valley, also at Anderson. And scoring that category too, much higher than other districts, similar size rural schools, and to all of our schools. So that was a positive thing across all 3 sites. Well, 2 sites. Campbell's data was suppressed for that category.
In digging deeper in the school climate survey, did anyone discern what the difference is between the family school partnership, school capacity, and the family school partnership staff capacity, which has been repeated for the last 2 years?
Well, it's just, I kind of wondered how many family members took the test. Is there some that the family members took?
I think we got family.
Oh, you have to click on the hyperlink. On the thing, and then it looks like we had 30 main responses from the families, and they have the family school partnership capacity.
Okay.
That was all that. It's the same questions as a. Let me look on the staff to staff relationships.
We could geek out on this.
So then you could look at the questions, the family school partners, school capacity questions.
Yeah,
Thanks for the 2. Like the school involves families in making important decisions. The school provides training opportunities for staff on how to effectively partner with families. This is from the teacher. It was that. Click on all those questions.
So let me pose this question if you don't mind, Dan. It seems like we've kind of scratched the surface when we want to spend a bit of time with this another work session with like a small piece of it.
Is there a smaller piece you'd like to focus?
Dawn and I were sharing something, or is that a share between people? Like, we kind of noticed that, like, on the AK Star stuff, there were some grades that, seemed to have a really pretty low score as far as like, the seventh grade, 50% needed support, they were the lowest category for ELA. And in fourth and seventh grade, in the math, who needed support was, 45%. And my wonder was, again, and then Dawn pointed out something that I had never looked at, which is on that second page, where you can see in each section where they're high and low at. And I had wondered if implementing that READS Act, we're maybe doing great in some parts, but are we missing something because we're required by the state to spend so much time with this act? Would that have any comparison, I guess?
I don't know that you'd have a comparison because it's actually put into place this year, K through 3. So you don't really see like data impact of that, but the attention and resources is true, especially again as finances become tighter. Money wasn't put into really supporting the reasons. All of the work that's being done is really like being kind of carved out. One thing that was interesting, and it's not a data piece that we put in front of you, the data that we use integrates K through 3 to help us kind of do very quick measurements of kids' progress towards reading proficiency. We were at the point in spring of last year going, a large portion of our third graders are, in this measure, predicted to be proficient. We got the results and we went, well, that's complete. And we kind of went to the state to try to say, hey, did you notice this? Because we noticed this. So we actually did really well at helping students gain these skills as measured here, but not here. And so one of the things that Karen was doing was looking at, what are the specific concrete things that are measured in that quick assessment? What are the things that are measured in AK Star? What's the difference to be able to go back to teachers in all grades K through 3 and say, you need to remember that reading's also these other components. And those components of like engaging in like literature in the reading, where the quick things is more these kind of concrete pieces. So again, like kind of the design of Scarborough's room behind you is that it's hitting some of those pieces, but not other ones. So you don't have like a strong of a total chord at the end. It was like, for us, it was like, yeah, you can't just look at this one data piece because we know we actually have to do that bridge over to full reading to strengthen.
I just wondered based on the goals that you all worked on that we're gonna see later in our work. If it would be beneficial to come back to this because, if we're trying to use this data to try and make a difference or try and figure out from the board side, maybe how we could engage in that a little bit more. I guess that we probably do need to come and revisit this just, based on our goals of then what are we trying to accomplish, I guess, and we use this more. I think we need to.
I had a wonder. I didn't know if anybody else noticed, but through all of the different schools and in all of the AK scores, the fifth graders were predominantly the highest. So what did we do right there? And that was before the READS Act and before some of these other improvement measures. So that group, for whatever reason, is excelling both in ELA and math and
Maybe they got a foundation in kindergarten.
a better, something.
Yeah.
Maybe they got a better foundation in classroom before they had to be dispersed.
It's interesting, and some of those questions that you're asking, myself, Karen, Toby, teachers, when we see those things, we've got another layer that we get to go to. We're able to look at like who are those students, and we're able to see a lot more about and know a lot more about them. That kind of sometimes can get us to some of those kind of answers for ourselves. But again, that's because we know and work with them for the data that's out. for the public to be able to see, protects that because it also has. What happened there? You might say, well, there are external factors that are, we're incredibly proud of that child's growth. They're still a long ways.
Yes, so
I was gonna say we could talk offline after the meeting, try to figure out, like what the best context is for kernels to focus on. One kind of goal of looking at this was also just to give you this general overlook so that you have this context of it. Again, the data is posted in the work sessions here, so these links are always going to be there for you. You can go back in, dig in, or if you want, and really want to just kind of make you aware of, hey, here's this general picture of where we're at, to help better inform you as you're making those kind of decisions. And we're
take a bio break if we need it, and we'll see. Yeah.
I don't know if it ran out of power or.
probably just need to push the home button. And that's pushed again.
Okay. Learning.
I don't look.
And so they're just gonna come up with sentences.
Yeah, I'm just reading to the list.
Oh.
What the?
You're allowed to use the chairs. It's okay.
Sorry.
Right?
It makes me feel wanted.
Cheers.
Meeting of the Denali Borough School District School Board will come to order at 7:05. Katie, would you like to lead us? in the pledge of allegiance? Yes.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now, would you like to take a roll call?
So to apologize, to the board, just let everybody know, what Jennifer is online. To do the normal stuff that she does, she's not physically here. So it's a little bit awkwardness, that usually she's here to support, but she is online for this, so she should be able to take the role.
Hi, Jen.
Hi. All right, are you guys ready for a roll call?
Yes.
Okay. Peyton,
Here.
Forrest,
Here.
Kristen,
Here.
Jenna.
Here.
Katie,
Here.
Lauren,
Here.
Dawn,
Here. We have 6 members present. Quorum. Business item 2B, appoint a new board member. Forrest, would you like to say this?
I move to appoint Tamara Olin to the vacant school, or to, vacant school board seat for District 3, seat C, to serve until the next school board election.
Second. Any discussion?
I'm grateful that you're showing interest in filling the seat. It's been a year that you've showed interest and some commitment. I think so. Great.
Since Jen is online, I'll ask her to do a roll call for this one.
okay, Peyton,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Forrest,
Yes.
Kristen,
Yes.
Jenna,
Yes.
Katie,
Yes.
Dawn.
Yes. It's unanimous. Tammy, welcome to the school board.
Thank you.
Dan will now, both of us.
Oh, there's this. And I could do the like part of it and then you follow it, or you could simply state it out loud, filling in your name with the blank, and then if we sign it, have a witness sign it, be a member of the board. Do you want me to lead you through it, or do you want to read it on your
Whatever you want.
own? Read it on your own.
You should stand, sir.
But aloud,
Yeah.
I think.
Okay.
All officers were either elected or appointed. Okay.
That's just like, you know, you
Shall affirm,
have to
okay.
do this to join the
Yes.
board.
I, Tammy, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Alaska. I will honestly, faithfully, and partially discharge my duties as a school board member to the best of my ability.
Sign and date.
That's the 19th.
There is a seat ready for you
There we go.
over there.
Got a nice empty name placard, just like.
Very official.
No, not official till him.
I didn't want it.
Okay, moving on to item 2F.
I move to go into executive session in order to discuss the matter, the election of officers for which deliberative records are not subject to public disclosure.
Second.
Jenna? Okay, the board, the full board will adjourn to the library. And
We vote on that? Do we have to vote?
oh, sure, okay. Any discussion? Is there anyone opposed to adjourning to the school library to elect officers? No one opposed. We will adjourn to the school library for our executive session to discuss the election of officers.
Justin, since we're all here, we'll simply walk in there, you don't have to send us to a breakout room, and I'll meet the meeting.
Dan, sorry, you broke up there. I'm sorry.
Justin, don't worry about putting us into your breakout room inside of Zoom. We're just
Okay. Sounds good.
I moved to come out of executive session and return to closed session.
Second. Any discussion? Is there anyone opposed to coming back into regular session? We're back in regular session. Item 2G is the announcement of officers. We reorganized as a full board. I accepted the presidential seat. The Vice President is Kristen Randall and Jenna Ham is the secretary.
Good job, you three. That's about to go to do.
We go to the adoption of the agenda. Kristen, would you take it?
I moved to adopt the agenda and consent agenda as presented.
There any amendments? Agenda? Is there any objection to adopting the agenda and the consent agenda as presented? Since there's no objection, the agenda and the consent agenda have been adopted. Item 4A. Yeah.
And for our reading and reading, I'll put a reading up, so I can read through that twice for us. Then we'll go around, say good evening to the board and welcome to the rest of the board by name and just share any thoughts or reflections that come up from this reading.
I'll read this. This is the reading for today by Frances Moore Lapp. I believe it is almost impossible for people to change alone. We need to join with others who will push us in our thinking, challenge us to do things we didn't believe ourselves capable of. I believe it is almost impossible for people to change alone. We need to join with others who will push us in our thinking and challenge us to do things we didn't believe ourselves capable of.
Good evening, board.
Good evening, John.
Yes, I think I'm living this today. But I have learned that I have to get out of my comfort zone in order to know what I'm really capable of. And that's certainly true for our children, as difficult as it is to see them out of their comfort zone. But so yeah, thank you for all the work of teachers and staff to help children on that journey. Forrest.
Good evening, board.
Good evening.
Yeah, this one's an interesting one. I can see that if I was just by myself, I would probably go home and eat the same food every night and be fine with it. And I would be fine living in a tiny cabin with, you know, nobody else around, and I would never ever change. But being married, having work, having kids, being part of the school board, you know, being involved with sports and things, that's what, you know, helps me see what others do, what I could potentially do because of what they're doing, and gives me a chance to learn and grow and challenge myself. So it's an interesting thing to think about, that being with others hopefully helps us all be lifted together. Kate.
Good evening, board. I like this one, but I think that it's important to have those type people in our lives, like the people that are just like, you got this, like that you go to when you're feeling down, or you know that things are going to be tough, or those people that you can confide in. And I think that it's important for our youth to have that, especially our teenagers at this point. It feels like there's a lot of anxiety in their world, and for them to have that, kind of outlet, that hype person that's like, we got this, like you may feel that anxiety, but we got this, and push people to do that. I know that I appreciate those people in my life a lot. And so it's nice to see that with our youth as well. So Lauren?
Good evening, board.
Good evening, Lauren.
Yes, absolutely, everything the code says. On the flip side, I think sometimes it's funny spending time with people who have a lot of wisdom and have many years of learned experience and, you know, less than, and myself less than them, and I'm like, I'm gonna go try to do this, and they go, you sure? Like, you know how hard that is? You know how all these things that can go wrong? How expensive, and I'm like, oh, maybe I don't want others. But I think for the greater the greater scope of things, that what we can accomplish together with support of each other is so much more greater than what we can do on our own. The little cabin eating the same thing every night. Yeah. Chris.
Good evening, board.
Good evening.
I thought this was great, because I've been thinking a lot about this. I've been engaging in a school opportunity, and as I've been taking some of these assessment tests to pursue a master's degree, I had to take all these like skiing and challenge tests. And when you said, oh, it's like kids, and I'm like, that's what I felt like this last week as I was doing the online orientation for this program, and you know, it was really challenging. I'm like, oh, well, can I do this? And a lot of some of the program was about changing your self-talk, you know, like, yes, you can do this. Even at my age, I can do this and it'll be okay. And I think that belief in believing in yourself, that you are capable of doing those hard things. And just excited for that journey and to be a part of a learning community that so far has been very supportive and very welcoming. And I'm just excited to start that journey, I think, to see what I'm capable of and to see if I can still learn and if I can still grow. So that was very appropriate for me, you know, as I'm moving into that chapter of my life. So, next chapter, I guess. Peyton.
So I think what I've gathered from this quote is that maybe change is like kind of impossible without the help of different perspectives, and how the encouragement of peers and teamwork is more efficient and enlightening, and possibly about how different perspectives can help fuel our own self-reflection, and that the time spent with others can be valuable even when they're like no longer around. I think that's kind of what I thought about. Mr. Bolza?
Good evening, board.
Good evening.
I was thinking about like times in my professional career when I feel like I've grown a lot. And I think about times, one time was like when I was in Pakistan, and the work there, and it's really the work that a group did, like kind of administrators and stuff as a team. And doing that, I thought that was a period of time that I grew a lot. And that's similar to my experience here in Denali as superintendent. And especially the last maybe 5 or 6 years, where we've actually been very intentional. We've designed a meeting every 2 weeks where we're not dealing with the district business. We're actually taking a focused time and doing a book study for ourselves as a team to sit there and think through something, and to try to help that and each other become better at like a core skill. We've even focused on developing skills that will help us be better instructional leaders, not like better schedule makers, better managers, finances, things like that. So our primary role being an instructional leader, we need to own ourselves against each other to do that better than we did yesterday. Karen?
Good evening, board.
Good
evening. I like this kind of for two reasons. The idea of people in our lives that encourage us, but also those who would step up and say, you need to work in this area. You know, you can be better, and in a way kind of call us out and call us to step up and do better. I have been kind of challenged in that area lately, and it just.
Good evening, board.
Good evening.
I like the phrase, we'll joining with others who will push us in our thinking, and this quote makes me think of our daughter Danica, who's a senior and eagerly applying to colleges. I'm so excited for her to, she's grown up in a very small school and she's had a lot of the same classmates for many, many years now. And I'm excited for the opportunity she'll have to be among a much bigger pond of thinkers. Or and that's everyone.
We're gonna let Jen off the hook.
Oh, good evening, Jennifer.
Good evening, board. I think that that's a really good quote. And I was kind of in the mindset with Tammy about it's it's good to surround yourself with a lot of positive people that will encourage you and help you grow in that sense, but also challenge you and grow in a challenge you in a positive way so that you can grow um as a human being. Um yeah, but I agree with you guys too. And that's it.
You all. Okay, we'll move on to public comments on agenda items. I don't think we have a sign up sheet, but is there anyone from the audience interested in making a public comment on an agenda item? Here, so Anderson School presentation.
Guten Abend, ich heiße Peter, which means good evening, I am Peter.
Good evening, I'm Preston, but Guten Morgen or Guten Abend, ich heiße Preston, there you go. Guten Abend, ich bin Bryce. The purpose for our Germany, the purpose of our Germany trip was to enable students to plan for and experience international travel, place-based learning for students, extension of learning the German language to enable students to navigate daily activities in German-speaking countries. Students connect the language to German culture, students reflect on sharing their experience with other students, their families, and the public.
These are the standards for learning a foreign language. Students must be able to use the language both in and outside of their school setting. Students must also show evidence of becoming lifelong learners of the language, both for personal enjoyment and enrichment. Going to Germany helped amplify our learning experience as well as giving real-world familiarity of using the language.
Our learning targets for the Germany trip were to I can practice the German language through speaking, reading, and writing while in Germany, expanding my vocabulary and a proper use of German grammar and sentence structure. I can use my German language skills to navigate daily activities by applying the language to communicate with native German speaking. I can read and understand schedules in the German language that will allow me to plan and execute daily activities such as travel and visit.
I can reflect on daily activities in writing and share my experiences with others who well prepared their presentations.
For our trip, we had to communicate with parents and students about our schedule. Mr. Hoffman mainly communicated with the airlines and companies at night because of the time difference. We also made sure we had our fundraising, passports, and correct budget calculations, itinerary, packing list, student IDs. After this was settled, we had to book our airline tickets, either meeting at the school or from on phone. Yes, our motto was to make sure you are cooking safe by staying us.
We had a student who was booked on the wrong Germany flight and it took like forever to get through that.
You guys have any questions?
When did you learn they were not booked on the same flight?
We learned about like a day later at night. And there, so,
Still before your trip.
yeah, before the trip, I believe so. Yeah.
Okay, that's it.
On our first day, we landed in Frankfurt, and stepping out of the plane, we were greeted by a hot spring day, which is a huge shock compared to the snow at home. We then took a bus to the terminal to get our passports checked and then pick up our luggage. Then we made our way to the train station under the airport. You guys have any
How
questions?
long was the train ride?
5 hours.
5
Oh,
hours.
that was not the main train station.
It's like 20 minutes.
It was,
Yeah, it was
it was from the airport to the train station was like 15 minutes. It was pretty short and the train was really fast, so.
Oh, I guess I'm still going. Train took us to the main train station where we had our first experience buying something with euros. We then waited to board our train for a nice rest as the train took us for 5.5 hours across Germany to Dresden. After arriving at Dresden train station, we took a taxi to the useful hostel, check in and sleep. You guys have any questions?
At this train station was, so in Europe, they have bathrooms where you have to pay coins to use them. So it was our first experience using those, and I was the test dummy. And I got locked inside the bathroom because I didn't realize how to get out. And so I was a test dummy and I had to show the whole group how to use them after that.
So on our first like full day there, the youth hostel served breakfast. And it's kind of like a buffet in a way. They have eggs, they had sausages, they had pretty much anything you'd expect. Like a lot of it was like normal American breakfast, but they also had a bunch of like different things. They had tomatoes, they had it was unique there. We also took a walk down to the grocery store down there. Yours?
Also at the youth hostel, they get fresh bread shipped in every morning from local bakeries, so that's kind of cool. But our first grocery shopping experience felt straight out of a completely different universe. To begin with, it was difficult to find a grocery store in the middle of such a bustling and big city. But the array of healthy foods, fresh produce, and baked goods, as well as snacks and drinks, was extremely impressive. Most supermarkets in Germany get bread and sweet treats brought in fresh each morning from a local bakery. The store had a lot of imports that we don't get in America, and they also don't pack your groceries for you like what commonly happens in American culture. Reusable bags are the norm, and sometimes they also have paper bags, but that was like rare, and we only found paper bags in like one store.
Me? Okay, so for lunch, what we did was there was some, well, he was getting tickets for, what was it? It was for
The trains.
bus, the trains,
The
yes. The trains that go around the city. We went to this restaurant that was, it was a nice little sit down place. I got some currywurst, which is like whatever it was, a schnitzel with curry powder on it. There you go. That's a good explanation. And while we were doing that, he got our bus tickets or our train tickets, and their culture's a lot different there. One of the more notable things is he had a lot of emphasis on this. When you're eating, you need to have your knife in your dominant hand and your fork in your other hand. And he was very, very like, he was on that. Oh, and ordering, we had to order in German. So each and every one of us did that. We each ordered different things. There might have been a couple of us who ordered the same thing, but most of us pretty much got something unique. He tried different things, I tried different things, she tried different things, the Campbell kids tried different things. Another thing there is they don't have ice. And she was with us. They don't have ice in Germany. Like they have it, but it's not served with like drinks or anything like that. She asked for something and she ended up getting a box of ice, a box you get at a restaurant or something when you're ordering takeout or something. It was full of ice. So she ended up getting that and she had to walk around with that for a little bit.
Questions?
The knife have to be in your dominant hand. Is that like a cultural thing?
That's actually when Germany was figuring out how to find like American spies. They were able to figure them out because they held the knife in their right hand instead of the left hand, which is common courtesy in Germany. So it's not your dominant hand, it's just the knife in the left hand. And I don't really know why.
Your right hand, if you cut with your right hand, you cannot cut with the fork, you can do everything.
Oh, it's me. Oh, I'll add it on. Okay. At the bottom, those pictures there, they were at a church in Germany or in Dresden, and in the second picture at the top of that building, it's where we are in that first picture right there. You can see the river downtown. In that third picture, that was where the king stayed or something like that. Yeah, that's where the king of Dresden would have stayed, or the king of Saxony, right? He would have stayed there. And we were gonna get tickets there, but it would have taken like, the tour was like 3 or 4 hours long or something like that, and we wanted to get along with our day. So after that, we ended up getting ice cream, and then we just went back to the youth hostel.
Any more questions on this slide? On the third day, we took a light rail for the first time, and our destination was an arts-oriented private Catholic high school. The school itself is over 300 years old and was founded by August the Strong, King of Saxony and Poland. The school has won multiple awards for its amazing architecture. That's the school in the bottom picture as well as in the top picture. So it was very unique. The students of this school graduate learning up to 5 languages, and this includes Latin. The school contains multiple students who are part of the Dresdner, I'm going to butcher this, Kreuzchor, a world-famous church choir. While at this school, we had the privilege to attend a choir class, yay, as well as the tour of their facilities. They also allowed us to film and edit a short introduction video in their studio. In the choir class, they gave us books that didn't contain any common vocal ranges, such as like bass, tenor, alto, or soprano. And the books also had a section labeled Popular American Songs, which we'll showcase.
Yes. Kaiser Preston. Ich bin 7 Jahre alt. Ich komme aus Anderson, Alaska und ich gehe in die 11. Klasse. Hallo, mein Name ist Bryce. Ich bin 15 Jahre alt. Ich komme aus Anderson, Alaska. Ich gehe in die 9. Klasse.
They select that specifically because you were visiting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all on the same day. So after visiting the school, we took the light rail to visit a German resident, Mr. Hoffman's brother. We had the opportunity to be in a German apartment. Miss Hoffman's brother then took us to 2 playgrounds right next door because we are kids and we need playtime. After dinner, we then went to the public pool before calling it a night. Public pool's so cool. Okay, a couple notes about the public pool. It's a bit like sports kind of pool. It's like very, very long, very long.
It's an Olympic sized pool.
Yes, Olympic size. And I got tired because it was very long.
All they do is they don't like splash around, they swim laps. And so when we got there. And then also at Hoffman's brother's house, they don't have dryers in Germany, which a lot of the sweaters, like what I'm wearing, and they're not made for the dryer. So I had to buy this big. So when I put it in the dryer, it shrunk a bunch. So what they do is they have a basement that's just, it looks really scary and creepy and out of a horror movie. And it's just a room where they hang stuff. And so it's like all these clotheslines going across. And when we went in there, there wasn't any clothes and the lights were off. And so we were joking that we were going to get murdered. It's very funny looking. Oh, and also he showed us his bike and he paid 1,500 for it. And then he had to pay 300 to add bike lights and stuff to make it street legal. And in America, the bike would have cost like maybe $300, not even. So they were talking about how the bike market in Germany is very overpriced.
And any other questions?
No, most didn't have vehicles. Bicycles were a big transportation for people.
On the 4th day we were in Germany, we went to a town called Meissen. And what they're known for is their like really intricate porcelain structures like that eagle right there, which when we were there, it was on display. I think it was like, they had price tags for each of them, and some of them were up towards of like 300,000 euros or something like that. And while we were there, we just got a tour of it. In that top right photo, it's a picture of the tour that we got, and it showed how they make porcelain in a way, how they just make all the what's the word for it? The molds, how they make all the molds for it. And it was really interesting to just see all that stuff like up close in person. And later on, after we got the tour, we went to a train ride up until the castle, and you can see us in that bottom right there. Me, Bryce, Hoffman, and one of the Cantwell girls, we walked. Tegan, yeah, we walked, and you guys walked too, right?
Yeah, we went our own way.
Yeah, and then everyone else took a bus up there, but they had their own story with that, so.
Oh, you're talking about. So still day 4. So how originally Meissen was actually like the first porcelain manufacturers in Europe. The story goes, this guy named Botcher claimed to be able to make gold for the king, but he was arrested in a castle and instead invented white gold, also known as porcelain. He was the first in Europe. And their trademarks their trademark is one of the oldest in the world, and it's these 2 swords. It's been around for centuries, the right word? 300 years.
So
And this is the thing Hoffman bought. It's porcelain. I'm pretty sure is it all the handmade Hoffman?
Yes.
And it depicts August the Strong, the king of Saxony, and one of the cathedrals in Dresden.
they make a lot of, so when we were doing the tour, we saw how they painted and made a lot of intricate things with the mold. So this is a jewelry dish I got. And so it has all the mold inside, and then it has the Meissen logo on the back, as well as a coin, which I don't know if you guys can see, but it has a lot of intricate designs as well as their logo again on the back. So they had a lot of things like this, and it was a really big shop with a bunch of porcelain. And we were getting told not to run around and stay by the adults because it was very expensive. And we were like a lot of the kids were like, I don't want to break anything in here. Can we leave? Like, we don't want to risk it. Can we leave?
Questions? Oh. okay. Well, I guess I don't have to cover that, but I guess I can talk about it. Okay. While we was on the, after we took our walk, they took their bus, we went up to this castle right here. And it has a lot of, history about that whole like area. I don't know a lot about it, but can you talk about it a little? So in the cathedral, they had like a choir singing, and in the back, you could actually, there's actually a couple of historical things, like there's like a one video in a room, and in one of the rooms, there's actually like the tombs of a bunch of rulers of Saxony, and they're like there, and it's like a whole bunch of them in one room. And it's really cool to see those and all those historical things, just one place.
And a lot of the tombs had like emerald headstones and all these like jewels and stuff like encrusted into them. And so it was super cool seeing that and all the stonework, and just they showcased exactly how the cathedral went from like this tiny little thing to then expanding, and then they built the 2 towers. And so there was a lot of like showcasing how they built all that.
You try Schnitzel out there?
Oh yeah, Schnitzel's good.
Maybe for my kids at home, they just.
That's how being with others should learn and grow, right? Just like in our reach.
Yeah.
I think we're good.
I've never had schnitzel. How would you describe what schnitzel is? I don't know if I've ever had that.
I think it's pork, right? And it has like a breading around it. But the 2 different times I had it in Germany, it was different. Like one was like,
Bulgarian, I believe.
oh yeah, when we went to the Bavarian restaurant, okay, that's on slide 15. But the first one we had, which was at the cathedral, near the area, there's a nice little restaurant. You can see the view of like the town and all the buildings. It's like it's completely different. It's like that one was soft, and the one we had, the Bavarian restaurant, was like a little harder. So like it's different depending on what restaurant you go to, which I think is really cool how every restaurant has its like own unique way to make it, which is really cool.
On day 5, we traveled via train through a gorgeous countryside landscape to the Amazonian rainforest. The Amazonian was an old gas tank, which was turned into a 3D projection and a museum of the Amazon rainforest. They had bugs, artifacts, as well as history on Amazon photographers all around the massive building. At the end, there was a projection room with a gigantic tower that you could climb up, and lifelike sounds as well as simulated weather conditions played. On the way back, we accidentally missed our bus and had to take the tram back into Dresden.
Same day, we went to downtown Dresden to see the last of the historic sites and some last minute gift shopping. Then we went to the Bavarian style restaurant for dinner for our last full day in Dresden.
Oh, I forgot to mention that. So at the time we were there, they had this like little, what's it called, a fair, right? And they had a bunch of nice little stores around. That's really cool to see. Like all this, it's really nice. A bunch of little stores and stuff. And yeah, a bunch of unique things.
It was similar to a farmer's market, so there was a lot of unique things there. I know I got my mom like a bunch of gifts. And then like this ring I got there, and there was just a bunch of, it was very unique to see like, cause like when we go to a farmer's market, there's all like local people who do beading and woodworking and stuff. So it was really unique to see the German way of that, where instead of woodworking, maybe they do like sewing and embroidery and stuff like that. So that was very awesome to see.
So on the last day we were there, we had to wake up. Did we have to wake up early? Okay. Okay. On the last day we're there, we did some like last minute shopping and all that. Maybe we had like an hour or 2 to just walk around Dresden. We went to the mall. We went to there's some other I don't know what it was called, but it was like a secondary mall or something like that. The place with the reflection pool. I'm not mistaken, the Trade Center.
The
Trade Center.
World Trade Center, yeah.
Yeah, we went to the, there's a place down there called they have a World Trade Center. It was a nice place. We had, I think it was me, Miss Kay, my mom, and I don't know who else went, Mr. Hammond. We all went there and we had like a coffee and all that. They went later on and went and just shopped. I stayed there. After that, we had to go ahead and, refund our bottles and cans over there in, Germany. They have these machines, and for each bottle or can you return, you get like, it was like 25 cents back or 25, yeah, 25 euros, like euro cents back each time you return a bottle. And one of the cool thing about that is, in the water bottles there are only about 26, 29, 26, something like
They're
that.
like this big.
Yeah, and the cool thing about that is if in America, you buy a water bottle, it's like $1 or something like that, and you can't return it. It's over $1. And over there, you buy it for like 29 cents and you return it and you'd be spending 4 cents on a water bottle. And that was something really cool out there. Like it took us a while to find the machine because we were just told go to the World Trade Center. We kind of walked around for about 20 minutes, but we found it. So that was a cool experience. We later on, we went back, we cleaned our rooms out and we just went back on the train to Frankfurt. It's about a 5-hour train ride or something like that. And once we got to Frankfurt, we just took a train or a taxi back to we went to another hostel. And then from there, we just went to bed until the next day. Oh, and the Italian dinner place, oh, I forgot about that. There was a bunch of bars over there. And there's this one little area, there's like a bunch of bars. There was like one restaurant, it was some Italian place and it was pretty good. I think,
It was authentic.
yeah, authentic Italian. And you had something to say about the sauce?
No, I didn't get anything there.
You did it?
The Germany food had really like upset my stomach by the end of the trip. So I didn't really eat there. So, cause they didn't have any like fettuccine alfredo or anything. It was all like really like harsh stuff on my stomach and a bunch of seafood. And I don't handle that well. So I was not having a good time, but by the time we got to the Italian dinner, but more on the bottle returner. So me and Bryce were sent out in front of the pack to go look for that. And it looked just like a machine, like an ATM. But then inside, because we were nosy, we started snooping, it led to the back of the store and it was this conveyor belt. And there was a big crusher back there. And then once you put all our bottles in, I think we got about $13. They give you a receipt, a little like that big, and you brought it up to the store clerk and you could either use that to pay for like groceries. But at the time it was just me and Bryce and we were like, we're not gonna get any groceries. So we just were able to get that $13 back. And then we brought it to Mr. Hoffman. And then when the rest of the pack met up with us at the World Trade Center, we went and we spent the $13 on stuff.
Day 7 was our last day in Germany. So when we woke up and left the US hostel, we took a taxi back to the main train station in Frankfurt. And we made it to our way to the subway and used the subway to go to the airport. When we arrived, we all got something to eat in the airport. And then boarded the plane back home. That's not beer, that's apple juice. And I know that looks like a perfume box, but that's actually a soccer ball, trust me.
So when we were there, they had a lot of these like stores like in the airport, but instead of like the ones in like Fairbanks and Seattle and stuff, they were pretty big. They looked like supermarkets. And one of them was like an Ulta Sephora vibe. And they had a big machine. It was like a boss machine. And you had to kick this soccer ball. And if you got a high score, they'd give you a ball. So I wrangled Bryce into doing it. And he kicked and he got a ball because he beat the high score. And then me, a soccer player, came up and did it. Like tripled his score. So we both got a soccer ball. And so I think mine's up in my shelf at the room, his is too. So I think that's definitely a memory that'll like stick for us together that we brought from home from Germany. Cause like sweatshirts you can outgrow and they can rip apart, but like the soccer ball has a funny story to it.
Definitely went to this.
And also that fruit cup, cause I was the one that took that picture, That was the best fruit cup I've ever had in my life. So if I go back to Germany, it is just to get that fruit cup.
What? I got.
Oh, I don't know, Miss Hammond. How was the chocolate?
Yeah, chocolate's definitely good there.
She ate all my chocolate.
A lot.
All my Lindor chocolate.
Everything is cheap there.
Except bikes.
Yeah, except bikes.
And clothes. A lot of like American brands such as like Nike and Adidas. It can be like, so like I'm wearing a Nike shirt right now under this. This was like 45 bucks. In Germany, I saw some of them marked up to like 120 bucks. And I'm like, for a Nike shirt. So definitely a lot of American brands and a lot of our like sports brands that we just see commonly and that we wear around. They're super expensive in Germany. Okay. Our experiences from the German trip. We experienced cultural differences, learned about ways to communicate in Germany, talked to multiple native German speakers, learned about food that Germans eat and their ways of living, learned about history and touched old castles, had opportunities to live social norms and see German fashion, saw the infrastructure and how transportation works. During our time in Germany, we also realized how important character traits are for taking big trips. Together, we distinguished that active engagement, empathy, collaboration, integrity, respect, as well as consideration, teamwork, patience, understanding, and finally, punctuality are all extremely important aspects of the real world. Working together to nurture, empower, and inspire today's students to positively shape tomorrow's world. Okay, so me and Bryce, we went off on our own a couple times. And these are imported from Japan. And we found them in a vending machine. In the middle of nowhere, there was a vending machine. And that's where I got these. And so, and it's ramen. So ramen from a vending machine that's from Japan. I think that was pretty cool. Okay, I already showed this, but this is the dish I got. I'll kind of bring it around.
Facebook was the price on it.
I suppose it's salmon pot.
What was so special about that fruit cup?
Well, it had kiwi and like guava and all that cool stuff.
What tropical fruit?
Does anyone have questions for the group? Off the hook.
I don't have a question, but I want to compliment you how articulate you were and thorough you were. Like, that was really impressive to watch you stand up here and be very articulate with us and present that trip how you did. Like, I could see that, not only did you learn, but you were able to present it. So I think that's a great skill that you can take moving forward in your life. There's always an opportunity to be a presenter, and you were very confident in presenting that skill. Thank you.
Any questions?
Thanks so much. We appreciate getting the report back on the trip.
Yeah.
Very fun to enjoy that.
Item 6B is Dr. Parody available?
Yeah, she is in the meeting. Lisa, if you're there. And Dr. Parody is the executive director of the Superintendent's Association. She initially had planned to be here in person, so we arranged an opportunity for her to meet the board and speak to you just briefly. Turns out she wasn't able to be here physically in person, but we still maintain the connection to Zoom. So, Lisa.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for letting me appear by Zoom. We're putting on, I'm Dr. Lisa Skiles Parody. I'm the Executive Director of the Alaska Council of School Administrators and the Alaska Superintendents Association. And next week, we're putting on multiple events, the Superintendent's Conference, the Principals Conference, etc. So I was trying to figure out a way to get with you tonight, but we'll try to come to a future board meeting because I'm here by Zoom to make an incredibly important announcement. It's my favorite part of my job every year is being here to make this announcement. And it's really my honor to join you this evening to recognize Dan Polta as the 2025 Alaska Superintendent of the Year. Yes, yay. Woohoo. You should be so proud of this accomplishment. The Alaska Superintendent of the Year is nominated by colleagues and members of the community, and others in the district are eligible to nominate this person and then selected by a committee of the current superintendents and former Alaska Superintendents of the Year. Since 2015, Superintendent Polta has been a dedicated leader of the Denali Borough School District, fostering strong relationships and a commitment to student learning. For the last 10 years, and I've been doing this job for 11 years now, so I've really had the chance to work with Superintendent Polta the last 10 years. He has served as the director of Region B, which is a like-sized district for the Alaska Superintendents Association. He's leading and supporting superintendents that serve in like-sized districts, and he's one of our best directors. He has been such a mentor to so many people. Superintendent Polta's innovative Denali learning model has personalized education for the district, earning praise for its effectiveness from internal staff and others. His exceptional communication skills have kept parents and community members well informed and engaged. Mayor Chris Noel, who is your Denali Borough Mayor, said that Dan not only has served as a reliable partner to the borough, but also as a visionary leader for the district. Mayor Noel shared that Superintendent Polta regularly attends assembly meetings to report on the activities of the school district, and together the borough and the assembly have been able to complete school facility upgrades to better serve your students and the community at large. Superintendent Polta's long tenure with the district has created a level of trust and consistency that is so valuable for our community, Mayor Noel said. Dan will be honored at the upcoming Alaska Superintendent Association Fall Conference, and then he will represent Alaska at the 2025 AASA National Conference, which is our national association. So he'll proudly be representing the state of Alaska for the 2025 National Superintendent of the Year. We will also recognize him at the upcoming AASB School Boards meeting. So a lot of fun recognitions to come, and just so grateful for his leadership and so pleased to be able to honor him tonight. So please join me in congratulating Superintendent Dan Polta on being our 2025 Alaska Superintendent of the Year on this well-deserved recognition. Thank you.
Dan, would you like to say anything?
It feels weird. I've known about it for a while. And it's just kind of like that strange and feeling, and it's really humbling. In some ways, it's like, I know the other superintendents probably better than any of you, and they're people that really amaze and impress me. More than that, though, a few years ago, I was nominated. I know someone shared me part of the nomination packet, Karen. And I was able to read what she and so many other people have written. And I read that, I read the press release going out and stuff, and I'm like, I don't quite know who you're talking. And honestly, there are things, and maybe it's good to have that outside check, because a lot of times I'm focusing on the things I haven't done yet, things that I know are some challenges. And I sit there and I don't maybe spend as much time recognizing gifts that I have. But I would say that it's definitely not something that happens alone or in isolation at all. That and I think back really like the expansive nature of the team of everybody in the district, and how it's that team of everybody working together that's, in a sense, allowed me to get this honor for them. Because I think all the way down to Darla, who's our custodian in Peking, and it's like probably named I didn't even heard of. Okay, like the contribution she makes all the way through to the custodians up here, Kyle, that's in this book now, to our teaching assistants that help in class, from classroom teachers to our secretaries, to our maintenance people, to administrators that we have now that we've had in the past. Everybody is working together. And that's why things have gone so well over 10 years, is that there's been a strong team. I think I've known very skilled, capable superintendents out of my districts, and it's like district is still chaos in section because of other things. We have so many things that are happening well, and a big part of that is this team of people that we have working to serve our kids. I think, and I shared it like in our reading, the ability of the team, especially people that I work very closely with, Aaron, Toby, Joe, Nathan in the past, Jenny, Garrett down in Peak, and that close team that I work with, and over the 10 years, how we've grown and developed our skills together, even if some other people take those skills somewhere else. It's just been really incredible experience. Also, really thank to Don Holtz, who served as the interim superintendent, made it for me, and then my mentor for a couple of years, and that relationship and how important that was for me. Because I'll be honest, I'm finding it started to this. My wife and I, neither one of us thought I'd make it through you. Like, we were pretty confident. We looked at like the buyout clause that was in the contract, and we're like, oh, that'd be pretty good. We didn't talk about it. We didn't say that to each other, but neither one of us thought. I think he was really essential in helping me in that early time. And I actually think back a lot to my time in the association teamwork that I had with the superintendent there was probably, it's actually still there. And the incredible amount that I learned from her in that time there, in a really challenging external environment. We still strive to be an excellent, warm, and welcoming school. There's a lot of that I carry with me through my years. Thank you. Still a kind of a weird feeling. Thank you.
Thank you for being here, Lisa, and thank you for helping other people acknowledge what a lot of us have already known. And I'm glad he's going to get recognized as many places as he will.
Absolutely, my pleasure, and appreciate you letting me join your meeting to do this. And I do hope to get to Anderson one of these days. If we didn't have so many things happening that I'm leaving to go do, I definitely would have loved to be there with you tonight. So thank you for letting me join you.
Thank you so much. Take care. Good luck in your weekend excitement with the superintendents and principals. Our borough mayor is joining us.
Yes, Chris is in the meeting.
Has anyone had a chance, or has everyone had a chance to read the report? And excitement.
Chris, are you there?
Good evening, board. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Greetings, Superintendent Polta, members of the board. First, wow, Dr. Parity, thanks for the announcement, and Dan, congratulations. What an honor. And it's so fitting. And as you mentioned, I think I wanted to recognize Interim Superintendent Dr. John Holst and former Mayor Walker. I think this was, I think as Board President Adams mentioned, this is many years, I think, in the making. Many of us knew this, but what an honor. So congratulations. I also wanted to welcome and thank Tammy for volunteering, and congratulations on your appointment to the board. Thank you for your contribution. So I'll go through and verbally highlight a few things that are on my written report. In partnership with the Alaska Municipal League, the borough hosted an asset management training in the last month. And I wanted to just talk a little bit about that. Curtis Hamill, maintenance supervisor with the school district, came. We had folks from Usabelli, Golden Valley, a few local nonprofits, and then our solid waste department, of course, was there. And it's eye-opening. And I think that the field of asset management is definitely new to me, yet I've had, years of experience working closely with the school district on major school maintenance projects. The folks like Usabelli and Golden Valley have lots of experience with ongoing repairs and maintenance and programs to keep up on these major systems, complicated systems. We think about major school maintenance in our kind of mostly financial responsibility to assist with major projects, capital projects with the schools. And then the maintenance and operation of our landfill and our transfer stations. But I think it was eye-opening for many of us, and especially for me, thinking about some of the initiatives that are kind of ongoing and new, things that the borough has opted into, such as separated pathways, a new trailhead at Antler Ridge, street signs and address signs. And so we're definitely growing as a borough, and we're going to need to, I think, continue to work on perfecting our asset management processes. And so it was great to go through that together with a variety of community partners. I really like the idea of from the student presentation on Germany, maybe coin-operated restrooms. That could be a new thing at the Antler Ridge Trailhead. I wanted to mention kudos to the city of Anderson. I'm sorry I'm not able to make it in person tonight, but I look forward to getting up there and seeing the lot cleanup efforts that have taken place, I think almost right across the street from the school there. The borough waived tipping fees for this community cleanup of just a terribly dilapidated lot that had collected quite a bit of refuse. So kudos to the whole community who stepped up. I think many hands went into that cleanup effort, and the borough waived about, by code, the mayor can waive $5,000 in tipping fees, and then the assembly at their last meeting waived the additional amount needed to collect all that refuse. So congratulations to the city. I wanted to mention the Denali Area Airport Study. DAPS is still underway. That's an FAA funded study being administered by the Department of Transportation. They're still looking for public comment, and stay tuned for another opportunity to attend a public meeting. That's going to be in Healy, October 8th at 5 p.m. at the Tri-Valley Community Center. The last meeting was very well attended, excuse me, at the Aurora Denali Lodge. And so the contractor, in partnership with the Department of Transportation, is going to hold another meeting in the community. And this is really to gather feedback. Again, the basic premise of the study is to gather feedback on DOT managed public airports in the borough. How are they currently used? What would the public like to see in the future. A highlight of the last month was attending lunch at Black Diamond with the school district. Treasurer Allison Johnson and I got to attend, and district staff, Superintendent Polta, Acting Board Chair Adams, now Chair Adams, President Adams. So we took a picture with the big Publishers Clearinghouse check, and I believe we have sent the required check for the required local contribution of $1,051,949 over to the district. I wanted to just briefly highlight, and there's a lot more out there, but it was exciting news just last week that Golden Valley Electric Association announced they had they've been awarded over $206 million in 0% interest loans through the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Empowering Rural America program, the New Era. So this project proposed to construct a new battery energy storage system, upgrade transmission lines and substations, and then it also did include the refinancing of Healy Unit 2's remaining debt as part of the grant proposal. And if awarded, Unit 2 would be retired. And so this is both concerning and at the same time not unexpected. This conversation we have gone through this before, but this Golden Valley was clear that this is preliminary. The award is preliminary, and it will lead to negotiations with the Department of Agriculture. Not on my report, but I wanted to highlight and thank. We've welcomed Tri-Valley School senior intern this semester. Danica Ham has joined us, and she jumped right in. She's really interested in hands-on experience, active experience, and is going to kind of focus in on helping us with grants. And we have quite a few opportunities in the pipeline, in the hopper right now. And then also she's interested in elections. And so we've got a big election year this year. And so she and our clerk, Amber Wrench, are looking forward to working closely on that. And then last, I just wanted to mention we are working closely with the district in the Alaska Municipal League and a few others. Our statutory partner, the new Denali Community Foundation, on the Community Change Grant. This would be just an incredible opportunity for the borough. The minimum award amount is $10 million, and so we're working with Curtis to identify projects. Forrest is organizing us. We're going to go through and pare down the projects, and with Alaska Municipal League's help and an additional contractor who is tasked with helping applicants, we'll try to put in a competitive application by the deadline, which will be in mid-November. And I'll just say Community Development Director Stephanie Ford is also leading that effort on our behalf, and so she's out of the country at the moment, but she'll likely provide more of a report on that grant, and we will be further along by next month. That's all I have. I'd be happy to take questions, but appreciate the opportunity to join you, board.
Thank you for joining us, Mayor. No, does anyone have questions? Doesn't look like it. Have a good evening. Thank you. On to the administration reports. Does anyone have any questions about the school reports we received? Federal programs report. Any questions for Dan on that? Director of Learning and Instruction report. Does anyone have questions about that report? Does the Director of Learning and Instruction want to add any? It was very readable. I have no idea if AI had anything to do with it, but I always enjoy your, if anyone wants to know what's going on in the school district, it's your report. That's where I send them. Maintenance reports. Moving on to committee reports.
Finance Committee. Just me last month. We'll see it, Dan's report. Policy Committee. Chose to, I will say something about that. Okay. We chose to take a look at possibly modeling a meeting schedule similar to what the Assembly does, which is basically uses Healy as the center point and rotates Cantwell, Healy, Anderson, Healy, Cantwell, Healy, Anderson, that sort of rotation, and considered whether that was something we could look at. We changed, we edited some board policies to reflect that, but allowing for some flexibility in scheduling to make sure we hit all the sites. Any questions or would anyone from the goals and priorities report want to highlight anything now? Okay, so we're gonna have opportunity for discussion later, right? And legislative committee, looks like we're not gonna be forwarding anything to just business manager report today.
It's on his way into the meeting. Jeremy, are you there?
Hello, Jeremy.
Hello. All right, well, good evening, Ward.
Good evening.
Run you through the financial report. As Marino mentioned, yes, we did receive the required local contribution here in our local sources in August. That, along with some interest, our state foundation aid, and then our first of 3 transportation grant payments. We did have revenues of $1.691 million for the month. Through the expenses side, we're starting to get back into the routine now that we've got the schools operating, staff in place, expenses going through. We have started to track some of the variances here on an annual basis, and they're detailed a little bit further on page 3. But state sources, we're recognizing the increase, that one-time funding for the BSA, increase of $340 per student. We have some E-rate grant revenue that we had originally not had in the budget. And then under special revenue here, this is some leftover carryover from the AK literacy grant. On the expense side, we have some variances that we're starting to track, mostly related to staffing, personnel changes, additions. Correspondence does have an increase that we're planning for student allotments for grades 6, 7, and 8 to be a little more competitive in the enrollment process. And then I think those are about the highlights for there. Page 2, again, just outlines some descriptions of what all of those lines mean. And then this is sort of the detail that you guys can look through, specific to the departments that they represent. As we move on to grants, we've gotten the grant allotments. We're working through the various budgets to get all of those through. But this is sort of the lineup that we're looking at for this year. We were awarded again the safety and well-being travel grant that will cover some expenses for the conference. As mentioned, the AK literacy grant carryover, we do expect to draw down all of those funds by the end of this year as required, so we can fully utilize that grant. And then the preschool early learning grant that's carried over, we're now starting to see sort of phase 2, I guess you could say, with operating the preschools here at the brick and mortars locations. And then just a quick recap of the financial statements there. Bank account balance, and then you can see the various funds. We do expect to see changes to the fund balances here in the coming months. We did just receive, as of yesterday, the draft audited report. Preliminary look through of that. They had no findings. Everything looks to be in order. And as soon as we review that with the auditors next week to make any final changes or tweaks, we expect to then get a final report. And once we get all of that, we'll be able to update the financial statements, all of the fund balances with the true audited numbers. And that's what I have for you today.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions? Thanks for coming on, Jeremy.
Yep. Thank you. Have a great night, everyone. Congratulations, Dan.
Thank you.
Anderson School Report.
I don't have anything to add unless you guys have any questions.
Questions for Mr. Kraus? Thank you. We'll move on to the superintendent report.
You have my written report, and I'll go through and highlight a few of those things, and I think I have a couple as well. Start out, appreciations to all of our teachers, TAs, custodians, staff, secretaries, technology assistants, administrators, for all the work that goes in and like starting up the school. I think a school's kind of this odd thing, kind of shut down and everything stops, but you have to like ramp everything back up again. So there's this huge amount of effort that goes into just being ready to have the doors open, welcome people on the first day. And I was able to spend most of that day at Tri Valley, at least in the morning, kind of a drop off in the afternoon. And it's the first time in a couple of years I haven't seen anybody cry. And usually the kids are always fine. Usually it's a parent somewhere either dropping off a kindergartner for the first time or like a senior for the last time. Those are the two that you're kind of watching. And oftentimes you'll catch a tear. Sometimes they hold it together until they like get back to the door when they're leaving, but it's not uncommon to have a parent have a moment. Mayor Noel talked about the lunch that we had with the borough, and I'm gonna do a quick screen share. It really is a big check, both in terms of the number on it and in the size. It's hard to get it in the deposit slip and at the ATM. That's actually hanging up in the district office on the front desk where Jennifer says, if you come in and see that. It's $2,775,068. It's an incredible contribution to the operations here. And one of the things I sit with is if we didn't have that support, like even if we only gave the required contribution, which is still over $1 million, we didn't have that additional $1.7 million. Our district would look completely different. There's nobody's educational experience that would be on the impact of that type of issue. And so it's an incredible partnership that we've been able to maintain and nurture. So I think open to teams going into the future because we know it provides an amazing amount of opportunities to our kids. K through 12 is a good system. We want to give update on enrollment. Our numbers that we were looking at, these are numbers from a couple of days ago, but Anderson was sitting at 7.25 students enrolled, and I'm giving you numbers based on the way that we count enrollment for submitting to the state. Campbell was at 13, Tri-Valley was at 160. I think they've dropped a little bit. I think they're more like 155, maybe a touch above that. And Peak is trending at over 800. Looking, I think most recent figure I had was 821 for Peak. And so Peak is far above our anticipated enrollment. Will be budgeted for 700 students, but Anderson is below the 10 student threshold. So those students will no longer be counted as like a single standalone site. And instead those students get kind of counted along with the students in Cantwell, our next smallest site, and get calculated there. And the overall impact of that type of shift, if Anderson remains below 10 through the count period, would be a decrease in revenue of over $400,000. So it's a pretty significant damage. The increased enrollment in peak would translate up to some about $600,000. So things that kind of in some ways balance out for this year, but it's important to be aware of these numbers because it does have impact, of course, as we look kind of down. The other thing that's common, Mayor Knoll mentioned the grant that GVA might receive, which at this point has the condition of closing Healy #2. We know that would have an impact on our population in the borough. I'd say on a plus side, GVA also just signed a 5-year contract with Expellic Coal Mine for the purchase of coal. And so that contract also still embeds amount of coal being purchased for Healy #2. Does have some language in it that they could, I think, reduce the amount of coal in the event we do close Healy #2. But that's, I think, the latter couple of years of that contract. So I look and I go, well, seems like things are in place for it to be expected to be operating for at least a couple of years. And hopefully negotiations with the Department of Agriculture will either be favorable for the stabilization of that plan, or again, see more progress on work that GVA is doing with the thermal energy storage option they have been discussing putting into Healy #2. That project was not part of that. Kind of separate path. As Jeremy mentioned, we did receive our draft audit report and we're looking at that. He hasn't had time to go into details. One of the things I noticed was their initial view of our unrestricted carryover is higher than I was projecting, which figure should have $2 million. And I think we need to go back and take a look at what we've excluded from that in our encumbrances and prepaids, things that have kind of been paid or promised to be paid, kind of sequester FY24 funds for those. And trying to see that those are two figures that I saw were real different from the FY23 final. So we want to look at that. Concern for us is at the end of this school year, we need that figure to be below 10% of our overall budget. Approximately. So we're going to need that figure to be closer down to $1 million. And it's challenging when we might have this money to spend, but it's not recurring. And so adding ongoing legacy costs is a risky thing to do. It's a weird thing when we're looking at doing a one-off cost assessments in single purchases, things that don't have that ongoing recurring. We need to finalize the audit because that will give us some kind of final figure that helps us target that part as we're also kind of wrapping in what's our actual FY25 budget looking like as we solidify our enrollment revenue figures and final staffing students. With the FY25 budget, I mentioned some of the impacts of enrollment, and I shared two things that are kind of the big things that we're seeing shifting the budget. There are a few smaller things, positions kind of unfilled, we don't feel the need to fill, a few positions that added. Generally, those things are kind of balancing out. There are a couple of big things that are causing some larger shifts in the FY25 budget. One is the one-time state aid, brings in an additional $400,000 of revenue for the district on our budget projections. But $400,000 of our actual plan for revenue is also that one time. So again, $800,000 revenue we're receiving is not promised to continue. So that's a long-term continue. But that additional revenue is one thing that's shifting our budget for next year. Anderson continues to be below 10 students through the count period. That would be a downward shift in revenue, approximately 400,000. By using an assumption of 800 students at peak, that would bring in approximately an additional $600,000 in revenue, which with an added expense of about $200,000 in student pockets for those additional students. And that would, if those are like the only things that happen, that would probably shrink our planned budget deficit from $660,000 for FY25 down to about $120,000. So we see this kind of big shift, a lot driven by the upward shift to peak and the additional creating this kind of additional revenue shrinks a planned deficit. Based on that, it improved the authorization of increasing our student allotments peak grades 6, 7, and 8, and that makes it equal to our high school allotments and puts us at the same level with some of our key competitors in the correspondence school marketplace. And what that did was help stabilize our enrollment in those grade levels, because we had some families that were looking towards those other programs and being about transferring out to receive a slightly higher enrollment from some of those grade programs. So that helped retain those with us. Again, it was kind of built up. The other thing that we'll look to do, and is one of the action items tonight, is to reinstate transportation services. Campus. Few updates on facilities with the fuel bids. Curtis and I did open and review those. And confirmed that now was the lowest responsive bid, and so we continue with adding heating services. With that, we did have 2 bids that were in. Wisconsin. Update on our Siemens control panels and fire dampers. We're making progress. We're able to get kind of the server up and online and working. That's allowing Siemens to access that server and do the programming they need to do, which then improves the controls for our temperatures in our rooms and lets us kind of key in and do the final replacement of a couple of valves in places where we have maladjusted temperatures in Tri-Valley. Fire dampers, slightly other story. One of the key ones that we're having problems with doesn't have power going to it. And we think that in renovation in the early 2000s, like a 2003 large scale renovation, we think that the line was actually cut and abandoned. So the challenge with this fire damper is it kind of stays shut or open, and basically in that room, it means we can't cycle air out, and it heats up into 80 degrees in that classroom. The current solution, open the outside door, and that's really not a real solution to that. We're at the point, we think we've got like one more other thing to try and troubleshoot with it, and it's like we're gonna have to run obviously with power location, and the challenge there is that the closed locations voltage. It's a bit longer of a run to do, but we know in a sense what to do. With the community change grant that Mayor Hall mentioned, in addition to the projects that we forwarded for consideration, which were all of the projects that Anderson, Tri-Valley, Campbell that were not successful on other grants. Through the looking at the conditions of the grant, we also said, hey, there are a lot of the things on our CIP list that we can put on there too, because a lot of the like electrical upgrades that are just kind of project like 2 and 3 meet the requirements, because these a lot of significant energy production improvement efficiencies for us. So we forwarded $12.4 million worth of projects for that grant, and our understanding is also a 0%. So if we're able to receive that grant, not only will all those projects get taken care of, saving state money, but also save the borough's contribution for that. The 20% contribution on $12 million in projects is $2.5 million. So it's benefit to us, and again, benefit to the borough's finances if we to get a grant for this project. Thing that we've been looking at, talked about for a long time, the generator for Tri-Valley School, that containerized version. Borough confirmed they got the go ahead for the purchase of that, so we've gone ahead and placed that order. It is a long lead time for the company to build that, sort of 6 months to a year easily to get that. But again, that's orders been placed. We're looking at trying to get the information for the down payment to the right person. Borough to pay. It's all in the works. One issue I did want to raise here, and it's something I shared with Mayor Knoll, so if you superintendents and I are aware of talking about. There's a bill that's been introduced in the U.S. Senate through Senator Murkowski's office that would amend the Alaska Native Claims Settlement. And overall, its intention would return some lands to village corporations that in the Native Claims Settlement Act, they had a requirement to select land as part of that settlement, and then take some of the land that they designated, and in a sense, give it back to the state of Alaska for the state to hold in trust for like future municipalities in those areas. And the bill would amend that and return all that land that's being held in the municipal trust by the state of Alaska back to village corporations. The concern for a school district, for a couple of school districts, is that school buildings, which are owned some places either by the state, or in our situation by the borough, sit on them. And when Native Village of Campbell was in this process of identifying the lands to transfer to the municipal trust, there was also a conversation about moving those lands through the municipal trust into the ownership of the borough to unify that kind of ownership issue. If you've got this building sitting on the land and they're owned by different. And so the school districts are trying to communicate with the Senator Murkowski's office, also support from the state administration, really seems like a friendly, what we view as a friendly amendment to the bill, which would be to exempt land from that return on which sits a public building. And we're not alone in this. It's us, Alaska Gateway School District, Chugach School District, and wanted to make a mention here in the meeting, we did a work session, look at our assessment results from the state assessment that was administered this past March. That's our language arts and math assessments. There are also science assessments done. It's 4, 8, and 10. One comment I'd like to make and point out is that with our English language arts and math assessments, overall we see a real consistent pattern between years of the assessment, regardless of which assessment. 10 years I've been here, the state has gone through 3 different assessments, including 2 years of not doing an assessment. Once because of COVID, and once because a construction company cut a fiber line on the University of Kansas during testing. So even through those changes and disruptions, what we often see is that our students, looked at as a whole, 10% of our students, I will phrase it correctly, 10 percentage points of our students are more than, let's phrase it again. We have a higher percent of our students at proficient or advanced level than the state. That difference is about 10%. That seems to have been fairly consistent year to year, test version to test version, sometimes increasing, sometimes. So if we look and try to do ourselves a comparison, our students on aggregate are performing better than the state as a whole. The other thing it always shows us is that there are students in our grades, in our classrooms, who are being assessed as being proficient, sometimes being in areas that really need support to try to gain this. And at no point are we saying that the students are learning and that we're not instructed, but that there's still the same. The other thing that's interesting with the AK star result is that this assessment is what's referred to as a criterion reference test, meaning that the students are being held to kind of a standard of what the interpretation of a proficient reader is at grade 5, for example. A lot of the other assessments that you might hear about, like national tests or people talk about, are norm reference, where instead of saying, this is what a 5th grader should be able to do, they don't ask that question. They just say, like, how is this 5th grader doing compared to everybody else in the country? And so again, half people are going to be below average. The level of proficiency required in Alaska to be deemed proficient on the AK star, when you look and say, okay, what's the national norm of that proficiency level? How does that compare to kids in the nation? I believe every proficiency level at every grade level is well above the 50th percentile. Might be like you need to be at 68 or like 68% of your grade level peers across the nation in order to be determined as proficient in the state. So it's one of these like, okay, we're not sometimes meeting our measurement that we've set for ourselves. But then it's hard to kind of get the measurement out across the country going, wow, we still might do a lot better. We've set high standards for ourselves. It's important to remember that too. We've set high standards. And that's good because it tells us we need to keep working and keep helping these kids grow and try to close it. Couple notes on jumping ahead to personnel. With the district nurse you know, the position's open, I've been unable, and unsuccessful recruiting for that, we haven't had an applicant. And I hear that's, again, common across the state, in small school districts. I did meet with, the health liaison officer with Deed about this, and she was real helpful. She gave me a document that actually helps outline what a school nurse does. And then like what a lower licensed person could do, like an LPN under guidance of like an RN or a PA. And then also what an unlicensed person could do and what they can't. And that's really helpful for us because we are getting to the point of just, even just at Tri-Valley, our largest site, hiring somebody to assist in the office, or just that when kids come in, have a mild scratch, just not feeling good, that disruption to the secretarial with Sarah to then have to interact with that. We're seeing that's impacting her ability to do that. We're getting to the point of saying we're gonna have to do something to try to support them, but also being really really aware of what they can do because they're not a trained licensed nurse. And so we're close to that. Close to that. And I'm kind of scared to do it because I get really worried that we like don't keep looking for a nurse, keep carving that up the budget for weeks to come. And then we won't. And it has been for the last, not just during the pandemic, on that day-to-day basis, and helping support the overall health and safety of our one of them lucky to be able to afford to get to a point. Yeah, question. It's going to make sure that we're not the other with peak, especially with the increase in enrollment, we have modified the current job position so that we're someone with general education qualifications, not just special education. And we're looking at contracting with the teacher who's certified to help us write our IEPs in peak, but we're still looking for the full staff kind of interaction with it's 800 students. We are starting to do that strength to manage the kids. A couple notices on classified staff. Welcome here in Anderson, Paul Fulford, Phil Billing, graduate of Anderson. I didn't teach him, I did teach his younger brother. So he is somebody who approved hiring during the consent agenda. And then at peak, we unfortunately had someone go during the probationary period, and we hired again, just confirmed hiring as secretary. We also say, we are for your approval next month, just approved the hiring of the part-time technology assistant. Tommy Elliott is his last name. He's joining us at the middle of October. And then Toby and I were reviewing classified staff in Tri-Valley. Just like the positions there, based on some of the student needs that we see as we're updating the IEPs for some of our students and some additional skills. Also wanted to let people know, if you haven't heard, that I did accept the resignation of Jeff Bush, effective December 20th. In that time, though, from her doing that to tonight, she also had some family emergencies come up. That's why she's not able to be with us here, and she might be stepping sooner. So again, that position is open. Applicants. Also, the district office, we look at the part-time accounts receivable clerk, and we hired Tracy. A few items to highlight from just kind of like the general meetings or interactions that I have in different categories. On kind of like health side, on Monday the 19th, I did participate with the Denali Community Development Group, and there is a flu vaccination scheduled really on November 7th for people who have to access that. Really, it's probably going to be isolated just flu vaccine. They've looked and talked about some other vaccines, and the other vaccines have a lot bigger kind of lift to in terms of logistics of observing patients. So it'd be very flu-based. At the same time, I do want to mention and remind people that WhoopieConf is traveling around the state. And that is something that can be very serious, especially for very young children. And so again, I encourage people to look at the vaccination records and see if you're up to date with your Tdap shot, because this really costs for all these justice. It's P. This month I had an interesting meeting with Deputy Commissioner of the Department of Labor. And I got asked for this kind of like, just send an email. You know, Deputy Commissioner Nelson wants to meet with you. And I'm like, what did they do? And I was like, the Alaska? Like, what is this? And I get in the Zoom with him and he starts and he's like, I bet you're wondering why I'm talking. And I'm like, yes. He socially met one of our teachers working for us on the H-1 visa program. And she had spoken so highly of like her experience in our district. He wanted to know what we had done to help them, because part of his role at the state is actually trying to help kind of that labor pool that the state relies on, not just for school districts, but also tourist industry, the fisheries industry. And he wanted to kind of know our successes. So we talked for about half an hour, made kind of a commitment that we'll need to follow up with each other, because there are things that we did to help support and regional goal in their transition. That again would just be good things to help other people know, but also help the state, because they're standing in an office. It's called the Office of Citizen Assistance, specifically for people that are coming into Alaska on these visa programs to help them with that type of adjustments. Big shock and difference. I know it was when we got Maria's family. I think it had alarmed up. It was only 20 years. The other thing I've mentioned is that this week on Monday, we had in-service with our certified teachers. We also had our TAs there in the preschool. They're all kind of working on different things. With preschool is preschool focus. Our TAs were working with the Presenter Season, the Special Education Service Agency, looking at ways to kind of help manage like student behaviors, help kind of keep students and everybody engaged in key learning class. And then as a classroom teachers, we did a big work at looking at attendance. On the Friday before, we've taken a look at our attendance data to kind of get that out of the way. I think we look at the percentage of students last year chronically absent. That's over 10% of the days of school. And then on Monday, we worked with a representative from the organization Safe and Civil Schools, really talked about what are referred to as like pro-social positive ways to increase student. And kind of like building off of research that shows like a punitive or prosecutorial stance is ineffective and actually pushes people away. Like kind of the classic example, you've been out of school, you've been skipping, so you're going to suspend you. Well, you just push that kid away instead of how do we help. And so we spent a lot of time following up different times this month in October, trying to build systems, really help at this point build awareness and trying to use positive language so people realize the impact people are missing in school in terms of the effects of the past on acquisitions, skills, learning that they do. To help people kind of balance. We know there are things that people got to go to the doctor, the appointment. We have strange kind of issues with some of our families. Like, yeah, I don't get to pick my vacation tonight, but it's important for us to still have some time together. But we want people to be aware of what's the, in a sense, what's the trade-off that you're making, and also trying to help people with, hey, if you're making this choice, maybe you don't make this up. And taking that number of days and reduce and helping people just kind of balance all those things in their lives in a way that we think helps put school in kind of not just that weight. Entertainment.
Thank you. Thanks, Dan. It's unclear from either your report or Chris's report about this bill, the Senate bill regarding the land situation. Has the village of Cantwell, what's the opinion of the village of Cantwell? Do they want to be landlords
I don't know.
under Cantwell School?
I honestly.
Do you know if the borough has approached them or had any conversations?
And for me, it's an issue that Superintendent Mayor from Alaska Gateway School District is very passionate about. And so he's kind of running with it. And I'm at this point going, okay, I'm gonna be aware of this. We're trying to have a meeting with the commissioner next week during our meeting to try to see if they're, again, trying to approach it from the friendly side of we support the return and maintenance of these lands to the villages. We feel that there should be a carve out for that public service entity that was kind of carved out.
I'm also curious if you know if it has anything to do with tribal compact.
I don't know if it does or doesn't. I think it has a lot more to do with more of a nationwide within the Indian tribes and reservations to return lands to the tribes. I just happened to listen to an NPR story yesterday that spoke about some of the fractionalizing of tribal lands and reservations that happened. And so there are issues of trying to return some of those lands through tribes purchasing or returns to the tribes to make those entities small. So it could be simply tied to that, saying that there's a view that's a different thing. Since it's coming from Senator Murkowski's office, and tribal compact is very much a state issue that the state was looking at. Don't think they're directly connected. Again, that's just.
Does anyone else have a question?
I have one more question. To what do you attribute the increase in enrollment at peak? It's jumped almost 100 students.
I think it's the work that we've been doing, trying to connect with and appropriately support our students that are also enrolled.
I'm sorry, could you repeat?
I think it's the increase of kind of attention and support that we've been able to give students that.
Move to old business, item 10A. Katie, would you like to take this?
All right, I move to adopt the board goals and district priorities for school year 2024-2025 as presented.
Second. And any discussion?
I appreciate the work that the ad hoc committee did. I feel like they captured a lot of the talked about. It's really good.
By maybe being part of that group, I think the outstanding piece here for us as a board is to really hold ourselves. We inserted quite a bit of language to try to hold ourselves accountable to achieving these goals versus just having them be on paper and rather static. So how we do that, I think it needs a little bit more discussion. It doesn't necessarily have to be tonight. I think the opportunity that we have to do a board retreat in January will be a good time, but I think we should identify. Maybe I'll find calendar some of these targets to check.
And I would like to say, I would want to say the fall boardmanship academy that we went to, that was something that they really kind of reinforced while we were talking about strategic planning goals, was how do you double back, really double check that you are attaining these goals and that it isn't just something on paper. And so I really appreciate that we kind of added in the check marks to make sure that we're double checking ourselves with that.
I think I'll share, which is just more of an interesting anecdote in the committee meeting talking. Fourth goal, ensuring community engagement. And you know, one of the things we're kind of struggling with, because again, as a board, it's legal entity, And there's kind of like, want to talk, get a bunch of you together. This legal structure. And I had shared structure that we use in Pakistan, well, the World Cafe protocols, kind of how that works. But again, it's kind of structured, it really wasn't. I interacted with the superintendents and raised that same question. Hey, what do you do? The only feedback or suggestion I got was World Cafe.
And during that fourth goal discussion there, for myself, I want to make a commitment to make myself available at least at the Tri-Valley meetings, as that's the district that I'm making myself available 15 or 20 minutes early before the board meetings in my personal attempt to help achieve that goal. So, I mean, we had some broad discussions, and that's why I came in with listing some ideas and also saying investigating additional ways, because there's some different ideas and not exactly sure yet how to achieve that fully. But that was one that I want to commit myself to. The home meetings that we have to my district. So I'll try and make myself available 15 or 20 minutes early, so that if there's any residents that feel like they want to be able to come and ask a question or talk or share a concern beforehand, rather than just in the 3-minute opportunity that they have, that isn't necessarily a back and forth according to Robert's rules, too much. They're able to feel like they can talk to a person rather than a board and with the spotlight in between. So, just share my thoughts on that.
There's no further discussion. Is there anyone opposed to adopting the board goals and district priorities for school year 24-25 as presented? Seeing no objection, board goals, district priorities are accepted. Passed. And it looks as though we don't have any new legislative resolutions to recommend. So I'll ask at this point if anyone would like a 5-minute break between old business and new business. Should we keep going? No hands up. We're gonna keep going. Okay. Lauren, would you take business items 11A?
Yes. Also, my computer glitches out at that exact moment. I move to adopt the first reading of the listed board policies as presented and advance them to a second reading at the next board meeting. Policies discussed and recommended for a board discussion of the board. BB 9320 meetings and BP 3100 budget. Policies with recommended changes, BP 6175, minor children program, new policy. Policies discussed with small change or formatting edits that do not change the intent of policy. BP 5121.1, high school credits. BP 6174, English language learners. BP 6171, 6174.1, education of Native Indian children. BP 6178, technical education. BP 6178.1, internships. BP 6181, charter schools.
Second. Thank you. So moved and seconded for to accept these as the first reading for board policies, with the recommendation that we discuss at least a couple of them, that with background information. Dan, do you want to?
Kind of highlight that. You mentioned it during the committee reports. The changes in 9320 and 3100. 9320 discussion. Don brought up this question of wondering whether or not the school board should have a more similar rotation to the Burroughs. Burroughs Assembly a couple years ago shifted their rotation for the use to kind of cascade through 4 locations in the borough. You go Anderson, Healy, Killing Village, Campbell, and repeat that, they shifted to basically think of it as Healy, Anderson, back to Healy, Killing Village, back to Healy, Campbell, back to Healy. And they felt that the kind of population centered and number of people was in Healy, and there should be kind of more common times. And so looking at it with the school board, it was, should we be doing two, have a population center in Healy, have that maybe larger opportunity to interact in person with the board. Also realized it was a lot easier for people to interact with large board meetings, write comments, be a distance now. And so we did draft language that 9320 would have that rotation for the school district. Start Healy, Anderson, Healy, Campbell, Healy, Anderson, Healy, Campbell. You're still getting to visiting those sites, but increase the amount of times that we can be in Healy. The other connection in why BP 3100 is it, which is actually on the budget, so the current language on the budget says that the budget will be read at each site, which generally would happen in 3 meetings. And the recommended change there would be to change it from at each site to at. Budget has to be heard in at least 3 meetings. So it could happen on Healy, Anderson, Healy, or if it's heard first in Anderson, Healy, Campbell. So it could be 3 sites, but wouldn't necessarily be. We thought that that would achieve the goals if the board as a whole wanted to shift that rotation. We also talked about following the rotation, like even like whoever's next is next when the board meets again, like after the summer, where traditionally what we've done is we've had a May meeting in Cantwell. And then June and July, when we haven't met, we say, well, we didn't go to Anderson. We didn't go to Tri Valley, back to Campbell. And so within that school year, you're actually have been actually going to Campbell 4 times, Anderson 3 times. So those are some of the changes, some of the implications. Again, if you want to keep that cascade rotation. Yeah, I like getting home sooner when there's that healing. I actually like visiting the other schools quite a bit. I like seeing them. I get the chance to see them directly well too.
Any discussion? This is the first reading. There will be a second reading. There anyone opposed to approving the first reading of the list of board policies as presented and advancing them to a second board meeting?
I had a question about something. So BB 6175 Migrant Children Program. As I was reading through that, it seems very normal. I don't know, like, is there something that requires us to have that? Yes. Because it seems like we should treat every child this way, right? Like this is how we are already treating the children in our borough.
Yeah, if you look at the very bottom, you see the legal reference.
And I saw that, and I wasn't sure, like, I hadn't gone there and read all of that, but that's a requirement then to add in this section or something.
Sometimes like some of the parts of the federal grants we get, one of the loan requirements is we have a policy that says this exact thing is referenced.
Okay. I was just kind of wondering what prompted that, because everything reading through there, I'm like, I hope we're doing that for all of our kids.
I hope so too. Interesting story. When I moved to Southern California when I was young, I remember I learned about this later, but my brother was in 5th grade, I was in 3rd, and she went in for like the first parent-teacher conference. The teacher was like, kind of like, da, 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 da. My brother had been in like misplaced in reading. Teacher kind of put him in a very low reading, and her comment was, well, you don't know what. Yeah, she made an assumption about her brother based on the fact that showed up. We haven't been there the month before.
Thanks. I was just wondering what, like, where that spurred from, and I was looking for like if there's any super specific language that was in there, and I didn't find anything. Yeah, anyway,
So
thank you.
Elementary.
Gotcha.
Is there anyone opposed to approving the first reading of the listed board policies as presented and advancing them to a second reading at the next board meeting? Okay, seeing no opposition, that motion has passed. Next item of business is Kristen.
I move to approve the out-of-state travel as presented.
Dan?
Yeah, so the policy on travel does require board authorization for out-of-state travel. Again, from last year, in addition to some professional development that was approved, so for trip to Germany for the students and also a trip to Costa Rica for some students as well. This is the list of out-of-state professional development opportunities that we're looking to participate in this year. Everything is phrased generally as up to a certain number of staff members, names identified with them. One of the things that we do after approval, I want to say before approval, when we selected these things that are very focused on the work that we're to really advance model education, specific focus. Maybe haven't got as much attention, such as the National Council of Teachers, mathematics, science teachers, because we had such a focus on literacy training in the last several years. Trying to balance that out. The other thing that we do once we have approvals, we try to kind of reach out to see who's interested, sometimes nudge people a little bit. We get all that in. What we do is we sit and look at, kind of make a decision about who we want to send to different places, really conscious of trying not to send the same person where they might truly gain and benefit. But if we send them away and they miss 10, 12 days of school, we might have created a chronically absent teacher. And that's one of these compounding impacts that we've actually seen and kind of thought about is we have students that are missing a fair amount of school. And it's like, and then on the days they're here, their teacher's out. And it's like, well, why are they out again? It's like, they haven't sent them on another one. And so we need to be conscious of that. How do we help them train, get that interaction with those experts as people are really going to push and help them grow, while at the same time retaining them in the classroom so that they can help our students' children.
Thanks for bringing that up because I think I was at a Pie Night or something else where actually there was at least one or more parents that brought up that issue is that, you know, they want kids to stay in school, but you know, they had instance where a teacher was gone for a lot of trainings, was out of the school, out of their classrooms, and they were having it just as much of an issue with that as maybe that, you know, we as a board or as administration has with the kids being out. And so I think, you know, if we're working on, you know, this chronic absenteeism, we need to make sure that our teachers. I'm all for professional development, so like I'm not saying like let's ever stop that because that is very important and has a lot of great comeback to the school. I'm just wondering, you know, like, you know, let's really be conscious of that because there were some parents that were mentioning that in
Some teachers that are away for sports activities as well, a fair bit, not.
well, and I think that was part of the issue
Yeah.
is that they were gone for these trainings and they were gone for sports travel and then, you know, their personal days and just all these things that it just, that's what they were commenting about is that the teachers are gone. Some teachers were gone for a long period of time for all good things, like all good things, but you know, if we're trying to focus on, you know, being present in the classroom, whether it's staff or students. I don't know if there's a way, you know, if we can send one or two and have that learning come back and be presented at, you know, a staff meeting or whatever to, you know, try and make that learning then available for all of the students. I don't know how that comeback looks like. We send them, how does that come back look like?
Because. I'm sorry.
And as a student, I do get what Mrs. Randall's saying, like, I've had teachers where you, even if it's just a personal day, every Friday they're gone and it's discouraging. And I think definitely if your teacher is gone, because we have had teachers that understand even if I'm not in their classroom. I've noticed within the students, I'm like, "You guys, what's up with you guys?" And they're like, "Oh, our teacher has been gone for X amount of days at this conference. And then we have to call in a sub and like, cause I've been with my mom when she's calling in subs for these teachers that are going to these conferences. And they're like, well, this day we had this sub, and then the next day we had this sub, and it is discouraging and confusing for students who, especially with like elementary and stuff, with all these conferences and their teacher being absent."
I assume that, well, actually, I was just looking at it, so that, the funding for that travel comes out of instruction, is that what I'm saying? In the budget?
A lot of the travel is actually covered by, some of the special revenue grants. In Title II, I believe, is directed to professional development, so that covers a portion of it. Ultimately, all of it, I think of it as coming from the budget, that $11 million. So, right, an out-of-state trip is probably, and even an in-state trip, like a conference to Anchorage, the cost difference of that versus out-of-state is truly negligible, and you're probably looking at $1,500 for each one of those. Say there's one that I believe is completely not paid for. It's this because that the Superintendent's Association pays.
Well, I do know that professional development is very important, and that's something that we have valued as a district, and I want to continue to value that as a district. Just thought I would share this with you.
I appreciate that. It's something I noticed myself last year. That noticing that same thing about staff members. One person like gone so much. Just set them on treatment.
My limited experience on the board still goes back to in the spring when we were looking at some conferences and money identified yet. So that's what I was kind of still learning where that comes from, but some of the grant funds, it sounds like, help with that. It's just good to know. I like numbers.
Any further discussion? Jen, would you take a roll call vote on this motion?
Yes, Peyton,
Yes.
Tammy,
I will abstain. I haven't had the time to read it.
and, okay. Katie?
Or-
Oh, sorry.
Yes, I appreciate the awkwardness of being just appointed. Policy on voting does require board members to participate. If there's conflict of interest, state that, the rest of the board can decide whether to participate or not. If for whatever reason you don't participate, your vote will be tallied with the prevailing. That's my board policy.
Tammy, do you want to restate your vote? The motion on the table is to approve the out-of-state travel as presented. Yes is to approve it and no is to not approve it.
Katie? Oh, did she answer? Sorry, it cut out.
I'm not clear on what I'm voting on, so I would rather abstain.
Jen, would you continue with the vote? Thank you.
Yes, Katie,
Yes.
Jenna,
Yes.
Forrest,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Kristen,
Yes.
Dawn,
Yes. The motion passes to approve out-of-state travel as presented. Next item of business is the board self-evaluation, and this is going to be the same as what we've seen in the past. It's survey on SurveyMonkey. The address is linked to your browser or linked within your agenda. And maybe Jen would be able to send it out to us by email in a week or so to remind us that it exists. And I guess I would also encourage anyone, as you go through the self-evaluation, we'll spend some time with this in our next meeting. And but if there are improvements that you see we could make in the survey itself, please make note of those too. I'd be interested in working with someone later to improve it. And then Dan added the statement to ponder form to fill out and bring to the October meeting as well.
Yes, so at the fall boardsmanship conference that we went to, they had the self-evaluation came before setting goals and priorities. And I thought that might be a really good way to maybe move forward with that next year per se, not necessarily this year, but to take in kind of that self-evaluation and then set goals was something that they said we just really can help with making sure that you're attaining goals and moving forward with goals that, pushing goals that you've accomplished behind you and moving forward with goals that you could possibly go on.
Any other comments, questions?
Just what Katie said, there's nothing that stops us from coming back to our goals. About to do this. It's not gonna change, so.
So we'll look for something from Jennifer in a week or two, or from myself. Item number 11D is Jenna, sorry.
I'll move to approve the travel and attendance of the full board, student representatives, and all registered candidates for the open seats on the school board to the annual conference in Anchorage in November with the Alaska Association of Boards.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just because of the oddness of not having one of the seats have candidates, is there a way that we can maybe change verbiage to include newly elected officials as of the November election or something? Or newly elected school board members, because there's one seat that does not have a candidate on there. For the school. I don't know if that matters or not.
Anyone like to make a motion to amend the motion on the table?
I assume it's flexible enough to make that fine. We need to amend it.
Dan, do you feel this is flexible enough to include someone who's been an obvious write-in?
Honestly, I was looking at going, would we have those results in time, even uncertified? Because election day is Tuesday the 5th, and the conference starts.
There you go. Yeah, take back all my comments.
But otherwise, I appreciate like
Any other discussion? So the motion on the table is to approve the travel and attendance of the full board, student representatives and all registered candidates for the open seats to the school board conference, November, I think, 7 through 11. Jen, would you please do a roll call?
Yes, Peyton,
Yes.
Katie,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Kristen,
Yes.
Tammy,
Yes.
Forrest,
Yes.
Jenna,
Yes.
Dawn.
Yes. Thank you. The motion passes unanimously. We'll probably be gathering information about who's interested in attending, or who knows now whether or not they could attend. Start making plans. Item 11E. Lauren, would you like to make this?
I move to reinstate pupil transportation services for Cantwell School for the 2024-25 school year.
Second.
Keith? Jan, would you like to elaborate?
Yeah, to give some context to this, I think 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, when we were at a time of, budget crunch coming, really looking at significant deficit forward. And at that point, we were talking about potentially closing campus. Budget meeting there, where that was part of the discussion, kind of from the input that came, comment was, hey, if it would save money, stop the bus service. It does reduce our costs somewhat, but we're still actually paying a portion of a bus in terms of the per daily bus rate. We still pay a portion of that. In a sense, because our number of routes is so small, we said, hey, to cover that core overhead of operating, if you go from 4 buses to 3, it's not a 25% reduction. So it turns out to be a proportional reduction in total cost, reduced expenses by $40,000 for us. Something that we said, hey, that's going to help and help us with keeping services operating in Campbell School. In terms of starting to look at the budget now, especially when I was looking at the higher enrollment number peak, the fact that the enrollment at Cantwell is stronger than it was. It's 13 right now. Does have a couple seniors, got a couple, one preschooler there, another young kid we know in the community. Looks like Cantwell's real solid in 10, and the budget doesn't, like at least for this year, doesn't look to be in such dire straits as it was when we had that conversation and other times that. And so it seemed wise to say, let's return that service, put that on par with our other 2 schools, Dry Valley and Anderson's bus service is offered and provided. Also had the wonder and thought and hope that it would also improve the student attendance at Cantwell, hoping that it will change some of the culture and help get some of those students to school. It will increase your projected deficit. 40,000.
Questions or discussion?
Is there a possibility of looking at canceling Anderson's transportation service since there is one student that saved any budget?
I've been monitoring that too, trying to do some work, trying to get some advertisement out for Anderson, see if we can add some students to that bus. I think the long-term thing that we need to do for both of our small schools and make a decision for next year is to bring that transportation in-house. That even if we are kind of like completely say, okay, for a student, we're gonna still pay those proportional rates, save $40,000 in Anderson, and at Cantwell, use our own vehicles and hire someone to drive it to students would be a cost savings, even if we're buying brand new Expedition. We would be at a break-even point, probably have definitely through. It's like this cost-effective way. It does put us into kind of like a business in a sense. We have to manage those drivers, and we have to ensure that the vehicle fleet is actually more expanded than it is right now. Or else I'd probably be saying, hey, let's look at using our own Expedition chemicals. Let's transition. we've done cost saving measures, we continue to delay the purchase of new expeditions. And so we don't kind of have a robust enough number to make sure that there's one always guaranteed at our small sites while still providing student activity transportation. That track balance. So like this year, it's like, hey, we have transportation services to Cantwell, maintain it overall and move towards bringing it in. So do you think that's that cost effective model? Start to kind of
And that would be providing more income for some of the within this year.
also mean that like a person that might be driving this first student is no longer driving this first student.
Yeah, within the community.
Don't know, and you have that community. First student wouldn't be taking its profit margin off. But Ford would be. How much going out there?
Issues with. Versus a bus.
The biggest concern is that you do have to recognize a bus is your safest vehicle. It is a heavy vehicle. It's got great emergency lights on it. It's got automatic chains. If there are problems, it's the safest thing that for kids. So putting someone in like a SUV position would decrease that. So you need to be aware of that. One thing that I realized that could be a benefit is that on the school bus, like if they're picking someone up that lives along the Parks Highway, they have to stay pretty much on the highway unless there's left there. An expedition could turn down the drive and pick up and drop off the kid so that we're never in a situation trying to have a kid kind of cross a road, highway, and we have the vehicles more securely on the road. There's some things we can do there. But you do have to kind of go eyes wide open in that it expands out that kind of risk. And even though a lot of us use them with vehicles ourselves, street transportation, school buses.
I get you. That was actually not my question. I don't know what the overarching term is for child.
If we were transporting, especially like our preschool students, potentially small kindergarten students, then we would have to make sure that the seat has like proper chance.
Yeah. So we also have to do that for the buses.
Yeah. So first we bought like school bus boosters for preschool.
Okay.
Right now we only have one preschooler that rides in on the bus. But I said, hey, buy 10 of them. So I got hopes.
Yes.
Because they need a booster seat.
So Cantwell hasn't had the services for 4 years.
Since before, it was like that year was kind of decisioning and timing. So the year before, have canceled the service or was part of kind of a decision and then both.
And do they have a similar distance from school to be picked up as Healy does or
Cantwell's interesting in that you think of Cantwell, the school bus like traditionally would have to do like Cloverleaf route. So I haven't mapped out where everybody lives, but you have potential of kind of having to pick up kids kind of along the highway as you come into town. Then you turn and drive into the old village of Cantwell, come to the Parks Highway, go south on the Parks Highway, pick up kids that live along the highway south, continue south to the first pullout, about a mile or so past town, turn around, come back in, turn down the Denali Highway, past the school, go down the Denali Highway, pick kids up that live out on those roads that live up there, kind of go out to the end of the pavement area where you have the turnaround and then come back into the school. And so they live a couple miles away from the school, kind of meeting that minimum distance. Or I remember there was a student that was still ride the bus because again, they have potential to cross. And that's the dangerous one. It's one of these strange long runs where you drive to the school from anywhere, count on like 7 minutes. The first one on the bus might be there.
Or Dennis. Right, too. Thank you. Any other discussion, questions? Motion on the table is to reinstate the pupil transportation services for Cantwell School 2024-2025 school year. Jennifer, would you do a roll call, please?
Yes, Peyton,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Jenna,
Yes.
Tammy,
Yes.
Forrest,
Yes.
Kristen,
Yes.
Katie,
Yes.
Don.
Yes, the motion passes unanimously. No public comments from on non-agenda items. Is there anyone who would like to speak to? Comments from the board.
And just to confirm, I'm also again monitoring email account for the school board.
Thank you. And do we have anyone on? Would anyone like to start with board comments?
Yes. Shoot, what am I gonna say? Yeah. It's kind of an exciting meeting. We got to welcome Tammy. Thank you so much for your support, your commitment, being here. It's wonderful to be a full board. And thank you to Dawn, Kristen, Jenna for your roles as officers. Thank you. Such a pleasure getting to watch the kids talk about their Germany trip. That looked like they had a lot of fun and of course learned a lot. It was cool to see all those reflections being made and even just some of the small details of life over there, you know, that they picked up on and thought were so cool. And just the biggest congratulations to you, Dan. That is a really wonderful honor and very excited to celebrate that. Who's next, Kristen?
Oh, absolutely, because you just stole it all. That's why you always go first. So that you just, I can say anything. Congratulations, Dan. That is quite an honor. The students of Anderson, I just have to say, they have always done a fantastic student presentation every time we come here. Like, I do have to say hats off to this school because nothing compares to that. I mean, they have, every time I've been here, they have just done an outstanding job. So please let them know. Once again, I know I already kind of said something, but they just did a fantastic job, and that trip to Germany just looked wonderful. And as a school board member, I do appreciate the report back as you presented the trip to be approved, and then that follow up with us to let us know how the trip went. So that kind of came full circle, and I do appreciate that. And I think that's all I really have to say. Just looking forward to a great new school year. And yep, Forrest.
Welcome, Tammy, and I understand where you're coming from with the voting. I had the same feelings at the beginning. I don't feel educated on it in the first votes, and I definitely get that. Just glad to have had the opportunity to participate in the ad hoc goals and priorities committee. Feeling like I'm starting to actually be here and hopefully contribute more and more as a school board member, and excited to hopefully win my uncontested seat that I'm going for on the ballot. We'll see how that goes. And continue being on board. That's enough.
I'd like to thank Kay, first of all, for feeding us and nourishing us. She's We work hard to, I hope it gets her. But thank you so much for your leadership in the school and for sharing a culture that's very close to your heart and your own personal experience. And for holding those students to a high standard, I think, by encouraging them to navigate a lot of the decision making and conversation, communication on their own. Country that's so empowering. So thank you for shepherding them through that fabulous travel experience. And congratulations, Dan. So incredibly you are so incredibly deserving of being Alaska Superintendent of the Year. And like finally, I'm so pleased that it has finally been awarded to you so much. And I think it's testament to your growth mindset that your tendency is to focus on your areas of improvement instead of celebrating your successes. So I'm glad that you're forced to celebrate your success.
So I thank you to the kids for doing their presentation. That's something that I really personally love about the school board meetings, is getting to see the kids do their student presentation. I think that the kids from Anderson were so lucky, and the kids from Cantwell were so lucky to have Uba to go to Germany with, and really get kind of that firsthand experience of traveling with somebody who, has such a strong background in Germany. That's cool. And it was fun watching them recant their stories and kind of go through because that's something that I've always loved about traveling, is kind of looking back on it and being like, oh, you remember that funny story that happened? And that was cute to see their personalities come through with that. I am really excited that there's going to be a bus route back in Cantwell, because I know that in the past bird meetings that we've had people bring that up in public comment. So that's exciting that we're going to be doing that. Thank you to Tammy. And thank you, Peyton, for being here. I really appreciate that. It's nice to have a student voice and a little bit of a student reflection and the things that we discuss. And Dan, that's awesome. Congratulations. I'm so excited that you got, and not just nominated, but are actually awarded the Superintendent of the Year. That's awesome. So that's all for me.
Brainful.
Yeah.
No, thanks for, extending this opportunity. I really appreciate that, and it's a steep learning curve. I know that, but we'll get there. And Dan, congratulations. There's nobody more deserving than you. I've seen you turn in circles. So, but yeah, thank you so much, board, for including me, and
Congratulations to our newly elected officers as well as Dan. Thank you again for the approval of our German trip. Very, very appreciative of that, and grateful that our school board is just cool and lets us go on all these amazing trips. Also, thank you for the support in the audience. I know a lot of people left, but usually these meetings get empty. So it's good to see at least 3 people in the audience. Of course, delicious dinner from Mrs. K. A massive thanks to the borough for their constant support of our schools. That's just amazing. The coach for allowing me to be here. And I always enjoy sitting in these meetings and seeing the board and being able to participate. So big thanks for that.
Thanks, Peyton. And I hope you get to.
Sorry, I'm just trying to check and see.
Okay. I'm pretty sure we have 7 here. I hope you can attend the AASB track that weekend. There's probably a lot of other competing events, but there's it's a rewarding weekend for everyone. And thank you to the ad hoc committee who came together and worked through the board goals and priorities and gave us something really nice to work with.
we'll see how things go this year. Sounds like we've got other ideas for next year. And then just want to remind people that the Pie Night and Tri Valley is going to be 24th, I believe. You're able to be there. Just be cognizant of the other board members that might be in the room. And it's neat to see the presentations in Anderson, partly because we've seen all of you grow up through your presentations, and Bryce especially seems to have gained maybe a foot since last spring when we approved the trip, but and it's constantly, your presentations are constantly getting better. It really is a skill, a lifelong skill that you're building. Anyway, I thank you for the trust and chairing the meetings, and I look forward to this year. Pass it to Dan.
Working together, virtual fund inspired to do student process. Now, even before we revised the mission statement 2020 and included that focus on working together. We always know what's singular, nothing that any one person. I appreciate so much that focus as I shared earlier. The award that I've received is, I don't feel it's something that I will only by myself, something that it is also resulting on the board, with meetings, resulting parents, with the students, resulting the students, teachers, and what they've done, brought in, and also those are the things that I should really help and move us along the growth that we see in our kids at home or the students that come before us in presentations is a result of all this collective. It's not anything that one person does. And with that, it's just this kind of truly amazing thing to really be part of. To know that you've got like some kind of somewhat important piece, like this big giant thing going on, you're contributing to it. Think of it as a big flywheel movement and get a chance. It's your turn to give a big shove, keep it spinning, keep it moving. You know, these great things that come out of it, you know, are involved. These wonderful people that like become our neighbors, that will friends that we sit with, talk to. They become, and they may guess we just help them in that journey process, hopefully helps them become that best version of themselves. So I appreciate your help in doing it. Continue.
Being no further business, the meeting is adjourned at 9:50.